this year, he's won 8 of 16 races and collected over $700,000 in prize money. They talk of him as the next Richard Petty. He is a mystery. He has a country boy look that cloaks the wizard. Race followers talk of engine secrets that he and his 2 brothers conjure from ceaseless testing, of Merlin-like magic that makes their 3,700-pound beast travel true and easy at well over 200 miles per hour. On this track in May, he ran the fastest 500-mile race in history, averaging over 186 miles per hour. Today, Bill Elliott sits on the pole at 207-plus miles per hour for the Talladega 500. But only one driver in the history of this race has ever won from the pole position. And good day to you as we speak live from the Alabama International Motor Speedway, the world's fastest track, where until 15 minutes ago we were getting set to sync the drivers up and prepare for the 17th running of this $450,000 event. But then a little trash collector of a storm came through. We had one all day yesterday that eliminated the International Race of Champions in the Primatex 500, and you can see the conditions now. NASCAR safety equipment trying to dry out the track and get us back race ready. The humidity thick all morning long. You can feel it in the air. It's going to be very difficult for the drivers. This is the race of dark horses. This is the race in which Dave Marcus, back in 1976, sat on the pole and sped to victory to become the only man to do that. Now, Bill Elliott will try to duplicate that feat today. It's a race where those who sometimes have won their only race have scored. Richard Brookhouse back in 1969, and then more recently Ron Bouchard in 1981, and in between Lenny Pond and Richard Brooks have won in this race. Of course, James Hilton won his super speedway race here. Along with being a race of dark horses, and remember we have 13 drivers up front today that have not won this race, the major story is Bill Elliott, as it has been in every race since we were with you at Daytona. Ned Jarrett, the 2-time Grand National Champion of NASCAR, never seen anything quite like the phenomena of Bill Elliott this year.
Really, it has taken the racing world by the storm, Ken, and there's been so much speculation. What does Bill Elliott have that others don't have? They've said, well, he's got a special camshaft in his engine, that he's got special heads on it, that with the swirl burning in the pistons, that clean burn type of a situation. They say that maybe he has a different kind of fuel. They've had all kind of reasons why he's running so fast. But personally, I feel that it's a combination of things. The engine, certainly Ernie, his older brother who puts it together, has done a super job on that. I think they're getting as much or more horsepower than anyone. They, I think, have learned something about the body of this Thunderbird that he has raced so successfully, that the airflow in, around, over, and under it, that they're making it work for them all the time, even getting more air perhaps to the carburetor. And I think these are some of the advantages, plus the fact that Bill Elliott does a super job of driving.
Tim Brewer, Neil Bonnet's mechanic, was saying to me it's a bunch of itty-bitty things that make a big, big difference in that car. They talk about this 2.6-mile track, Ned, as a track in which we see just tremendous horsepower, and it becomes nothing but an engine story. Working along with me is David Hobbs today, and David, it's more than that. When you talk to the drivers here, they have a lot more to say about this racetrack and its subtleties than just plain raw horsepower.
Well, anywhere where you're going to average 200 miles an hour, obviously horsepower is tremendously important. But talking to racing drivers like usual, of course, you get a very varied type of replies, and the drivers seem to view this all in a very different manner. Technically, there's no doubt that it's an easy track to drive. It's wider than anywhere else, it's smoother, and the banking is higher. So technically, it's easy to handle. But the speed, of course, is tremendous at all the time. And a lot of the drivers find this mentally a little bit difficult because, you know, they're worrying about things breaking. The cars get very, very light because of the lack of downforce on this type of car, except in the corners, of course. And so we have a lot of people. Darrell Waltrip says no trouble, very easy to drive. Jeff Bodine, it makes him a little bit nervous. And so it's one of those tracks where horsepower does count, but you have to look at Bill Elliott's record here in May. He came from 2 laps behind and passed the entire field without the help of yellow flags. And talking Bill Elliott again, which seems to be the thing to do this year. Only 2 weeks ago, he drove up at Watkins Glen in the GTO race, driving a Ford, of course, with Lynn St. James. And they came fourth after a lot of troubles with the car, in fact. And Bill Elliott set the fastest lap at Watkins Glen. His first time there, his first time in that sort of car. So obviously, there's more to their car than just horsepower and wind. I mean, in that skinny little Georgian frame, there's obviously a tiger waiting to get out.
And there's some people here to slay the Tiger this time around. Elliott is beginning to get right up into the history books. You remember Richard Petty back in the old days, and they ran over 50 races, won 27 in a year. And Darrell Waltrip won 12 races on the 30-race schedule. Now we're at 28 races, and already 8 of the 16 have fallen to Bill Elliott. But one of the men who stands a real chance of taking him and taking the task severely today is probably Jeff Bodine. He's standing by with Mike Joy.
And, Ken, it's not just Bill Elliott. It's 5 of the first 8 qualifiers are Fords. There was a comment the other day that you were one of the first guys in the GMC, the General Motors class. Now, come on. There's a lot of them up there that you're going to have to tackle today.
Well, that's true. We're second in that class. AJ beat us out in qualifying. We wanted to be the first GM car in qualifying, but we ended up second. That isn't bad, considering who beat us. We're pretty happy with our run qualifying. It was a little over 2:01.5. And but I don't know if that's going to be enough to keep up with Bill Elliott and the Fords.
Well, this track favors the unexpected, and you folks certainly are overdue for a win.
We are, and especially here. You know, Mike, we've run well at Talladega, but it seems like the third and fourth corner and I seem to get together every time we come here. We've had 2 flat tires in that corner, and I've gotten in a wall both times. But up till then, we were running strong. The car handles well, and we ran ahead of the second group last time here, the second pack of cars, which is all mostly GM cars. We were the lead car in that group. So we feel good about the race today. If we can get it in, this weather doesn't look very good.
Well, so far, Jeff Bodine has had the one piece of essential equipment of Talladega today. That was an umbrella. There it is. Of those 5 Fords in the first 8 spots, one is a bit of a surprise. Chris Economaki has the story.
The man standing next to me is Buddy Arrington. He drove his first Grand National race 21 years ago. If he doesn't win today, he'll be 0 for 499 in his career. 2 third places are his best finishes over the years. But here at Talladega, in the tradition of the dark horse, he qualified exceptionally well on this new Ford. In fact, he bumped Richard Petty out of the first day qualifiers list. Buddy, you and Petty have had a long relationship over the years, haven't you?
Yes, we have, Chris. If it hadn't been for the Pettys, I probably wouldn't be racing now. They've been real good to me, and even though this car right here comes from the Pettys, so, you know, it's just, we've had real good luck with their cars in the past. They've been good to me, and thanks to them, that I've done good as I've done in racing.
Well, did you feel bad about making Richard have to go to the second-day qualifiers when you took your time trial here?
No, not really. Racing is racing, and, you know, I wouldn't feel bad if I had to make him go second today. So, it's just, you know, when they drop the flag, racing is racing. That's the way we take it as it comes. So we don't have no feelings when it comes to that kind of doing.
You know, Talladega is the place for the dark horses, and you have to be considered a dark horse even though you've been around for 21 years. You've had great patience, Buddy. You've never won on the series. The one important question that everybody wants to know, can you win this one today?
Well, I don't know, Chris. It's one of them deals where that you just go out there and do the best you can. I got a car that's capable of winning today, and I think I'm capable of winning today. It just depends on the breaks you get, and you know how Talladega is. Talladega's always some strange things happen up here, and it might be my day, so we'll just have to wait till the day's over and see.
Is this racetrack that's been freshly scrubbed by that shower going to make any difference in how the cars handle? I know they're set up for one kind of a racetrack. Has the rain changed it?
No, it won't hurt a bit. It'll just make good racing because it's going to be cool. It'll be cool on the cars, tires, and driver, and everything else. So as soon as they get it dry and we get started, you'll see a good race, and the rain ain't going to have nothing to do with it. It's just going to delay us some.
Okay, Doc. What about driving a Ford? You've been a Chrysler man all these years. Now you got a different... Bill Elliott moved into a Ford and started to really take off. So... how about it? Is it a car that's better than all the rest?
Well, the Ford is definitely a good race car, and it showed a big improvement on what we had after we struggled over the years. I think right now Ford is the best thing going for us a race car. You can just look at the car and tell it's aerodynamic, and I don't think it's as much in the motor as it is the body.
Okie doke. Buddy Arrington likes the body. Back topside to Ken Squire.
The skies seem to continue to brighten. Track officials continue to work to dry off this 2.6-mile track. 42 drivers anxiously await a start, and we'll show you how they'll line up in just a moment.
This CBS Sports Special, the 1985 Talladega 500, is sponsored by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by STP Corporation. On the world's racetracks, on the world's roads, STP, your car care company.
Here is Here's the starting lineup for the 17th annual Talladega 500. On the pole, for the 8th time this year, the Ford of Bill Elliott. And beside him, the Ford of Cale Yarborough, twice second in this race. Row 2 in a Ford, twice second here, but never a winner, David Pearson. And then the Oldsmobile of A.J. Foyt. Row 3, two of the young Lions, Kyle Petty and Jeff Bodine, both carrying CBS onboard cameras. Row 4 from California, Joe Ruttman, and big surprise, Buddy Arrington's Ford is qualified 8th at over 200 miles an hour. Row 5, Terry Labonte and Sterling Marlin. In row 6 from Texas, Bobby Hillin Jr. and Ricky Rudd. For row 7, it's Benny Parsons and the two-time and defending Talladega 500 champion Dale Earnhardt. In row 8, it's Tommy Ellis and Neil Bonnet, the 1980 winner. In row 9, Ohio's Tim Richmond and Missouri's Ken Schrader, the leading rookie. In row 10, the 1975 winner, Buddy Baker, and alongside Phil Parsons. Row 11 is Harry Gant. And then Davey Allison makes his first Grand National appearance on the outside of row 11. In row 12, it's Rusty Wallace and the 1981 winner from Massachusetts, Ron Bouchard. Row 13, the 79 and 82 champion, Darrell Waltrip, and alongside Connie Saylor. For row 14, it's Phil Barkdahl and Jimmy Means. In row 15, the 1974 winner, Richard Petty, and the surprise winner of the Firecracker 400 at Daytona this year, Greg Sachs from New York. Row 16, from Colorado, Clark Dwyer, and Florida's Rick Wilson. Row 17, 1976 winner, the only man to win it from the pole, Dave Marcus and Del McCowan. Row 18, the 78 champion, Lenny Pond and Eddie Bierswell. In row 19, it's Grant Adcox and the 71 winner, Bobby Allison. For row 20, Bobby Wowak, and then comes Lake Speed. Finally, the 21st row, Trevor Boyce from Canada, and J.D. McDuffie rounds out the field. 21 rows, and there you see the cars all gridded, and some of the tarps are beginning to come off the machines now. The drivers were just told to report to their automobiles. I would think that what we would see here is what we have seen in other NASCAR events, where they'll turn some laps under caution, begin to dry the track out, and after several of those laps, then start counting them, but have the field stay in formation. There's Harry Gant walking out to car number 33. He will be carrying one of our 2 or 3 CBS onboard cameras, as well as some new devices today, which we think may help you to better understand the sport of stock car racing. Thanks to Hewlett-Packard, some computer work has been done. Nearly $250,000 spent on Gant's car. They have some 23 sensors in the automobile, and hopefully today we're going to be able to give you some ideas about what happens to these machines under race conditions that you haven't seen before. And there's Richard Petty coming along, ambling out, former winner of this event. Truly one of the giants of this game. It'll be a sad day when he finally takes the helmet off and stays with that hat. Let's talk about Bill Elliott for just a moment here as the drivers begin to move toward their cars. How do the other drivers feel about what's happening with Bill Elliott here in 1985?
I've had my days, too, in that same type situation that I won a lot of races in a row, and I just hope it comes back soon.
I'm glad for him. I'm glad he's winning. I hope he keeps on winning. While he's doing it, just do it all, you know. Just go all out for it, and more power to him.
We give them all the credit in the world for what they've done, but we think it's hurting racing. We think the race fans don't enjoy the qualifying as much anymore. We enjoy seeing Bill go fast. It's a thrill for us drivers to watch him go fast, but it's taking the fun out of it.
You know, I'm glad that somebody has come out and won races like he has, because it's brought prominence to the sport.
He used to be an awful nice guy, but I believe he's getting on everybody's nerves now.
Controversy, intrigue, and mystery. They surround the winning ways of Bill Elliott and that number 9 car, which is right along beside number 28 in the front row of this race. And there is Cale Yarborough walking along with Joe Ruttman out to their automobiles for the start of the 17th annual Talladega 500. The Elliots are a family operation out of Dawsonville, Georgia, North Georgia countryside. Many wonder what secrets the mountain folks have conjured up back there in the hills. And to find out, I visited the Elliott clan back in June for our Michigan 500 telecast here on CBS. Let us again meet the Elliots and their mountain folk neighbors and the secrecy of the Georgia hills.
They got country sayings about them.
the story of the Elliots of Dawsonville, Georgia. There is car number 9, of which more has been written and said this year than any other car in motorsports. Something that's developed here today, there's no tire rule for this race, Ned. NASCAR's made a big thing about this tire rule, and now it's out for the running of the Talladega 500.
Okay, to bring the fans up to date on what the tire rule has been, after the first race after the Daytona 500, a tire rule was put into effect, whereas if they changed tires anytime during a caution period, that they would be penalized 2 laps if they changed more than 2 tires. Now, they're saying today that there will be no penalty. They can change all 4 tires. And I'm sure that if you went up and down the garage area today, that the crews and the drivers would really like that because of the speeds here. Of course, there's always the possibility of running over something on the track and cutting a tire, and you might change the wrong ones when you came in. So I think that it'll help to make a more competitive race, and I think certainly everybody will be happy for it.
Ned, and they amended that rule to a super speedway of 1 lap, and the short track was then 2 laps down.
That's right. 2 laps on the short tracks you would lose, and 1 lap on the super speedways, but no penalty today.
All right, Mike Joy is standing by. Let's go to him now on pit road.
Well, let's get a reaction to that from the winningest crew chief of 1985, Bill Elliott's brother, Ernie. No tire rule here at Talladega today. How will that change your race strategy?
Really none. You know, we're used to that here. This is one racetrack that you certainly don't need a tire rule. You know, every chance you get, you need to put 4 fresh tires on the car. But, you know, just because of the sustained high speeds, you don't need to take any chance at all with tires.
The air here is so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. How have you jetted your car? Have you prepared for this much humidity today?
Well, you know, we're starting to race kind of green because we've got a fresh engine in the car and it's not been run. So we're a little bit on the conservative side. I don't know how that's going to work out as humid as things are, but we'll know here shortly.
What about the rain delay? How will that affect your motor when you fire it up?
Well, it shouldn't make any difference other than the fact that if they run a lot of caution laps, we're probably going to be making spark plug stops instead of pit stops.
That's Ernie Elliott. Down to Chris Economaki.
I'm with former national champion Bobby Allison, suited up here. Bobby, it looks as though we're going to start under the yellow, and you'll be patrolling for quite a bit. What does this do to somebody who's up for the start of a green flag race?
Well, it always has some people anxious, for sure. But mostly what you have to do is just cope with the conditions that exist. You know, there's nothing you can change about it. You have to be kind of careful. And, of course, if it begins to rain while we're running around out there, a very wet track, especially here, could cause the car to slip because of the tremendous banking. So you really have to be careful.
Bobby, you're driving a car today that you've never raced before. Is starting under the yellow flag going to be a plus or a minus for you?
Well, we kind of think that we've got the car ready to go, so we would be okay starting green. But starting under yellow, we will, in fact, be able to see how the car shakes down, so to speak, and how it feels. Kind of maybe spend a few laps getting seated down in it and everything.
Getting settled in, so to speak. What about the physical conditions today? It's soaking wet in the air. I mean, it's brutal standing on pit road. It's going to be really torture at the wheel, I would think.
Well, the weather's been a problem all week. You know, we've had 7 laps of practice, and most of that was due just strictly to the weather conditions that we had to cope with. And that weather has affected every part of the race. It's made the infield a sea of mud. It's made the pit areas sloppy and wet, and certainly less comfortable for the crews than they would normally be. And you know, the grassy portion, if a car should go off, you know, you'll have the mud and the sliding and all that if that happens. So the weather has affected not only just the pits or the pit crews, but the whole picture.
Would you say that by and large the drivers are edgy because of the weather?
I don't know. I didn't really seem to detect much edginess, if any at all. What I think the mood is right now, everybody knows they've had very little practice, and they hope that the race can get underway and, you know, go without any major problems.
All right, all the best to you, Bobby Allison. Thank you. And now back topside to Ken Squire.
Bobby Allison is under considerable additional pressure today because his son, Davey, is going to take his first Grand National ride in the Haas-Ellington car. We'll be watching him carefully today. Car number 1 will be young Davey Allison out of Hueytown, Alabama. The latest word from NASCAR is probably 10 to 15 minutes. We have a pretty good wind now that helps drying out the track. They'll probably run 10 laps with all of the Grand National cars, 42 strong, and then they'll start counting laps, hold them in position, and go for a green maybe another 5 or 10 laps later. We'll be back with more on the story of the Talladega 500 after these messages. We're coming to you live from Talladega, Alabama, CBS flag-to-flag coverage. We have 3 in-car cameras today. We'll be in the cars of Jeff Bodine, of Kyle Petty, a real dark horse who stands a good chance here. Remember, he finished second in May. And with Harry Gant. And let's go down to Harry Gant's car right now. Here's Chris Economaki.
Well, Harry, I've never seen a stock car so loaded with electronic gadgetry here. What all's in here? A couple of computers and so forth?
Yeah, it's got some computer equipment in here that transmits a lot of different things, data back to our truck, and then we got the CBS camera and all. So we got a lot of equipment in here, along with fuel gauges, all kind of gauges.
Is this stuff a distraction to you as a driver?
No, not really. In this particular car, the TV camera is hard to see past. The rest of the stuff, it don't bother me because I don't have to really do anything in the car, turn the switches. They do it all remote from the truck.
Now, are you going to get feedback back from the pits? The pits gets the readings from this stuff and then analyze it, and then he tell you something to do. Is that how it works?
Yeah, he'll tell us something we can do in the future that will help us. It's going to take several races for us to get all our, all the stuff put in the computer and be able to analyze how it reacted on this racetrack, use it next week, then the next week. So it's going to take 7 or 8 races to really get it working.
All right, Hal, I hope you have a really good drive, and we'll be seeing more about this telemetry equipment in our show later on today. Now let's go topside to Ken Squire.
What we're seeing here today is much more than a bunch of super-fast cars and high-rolling promoters and steel-nerve drivers in racing. There's much more at stake than just the $450,000 purse today. And we'll be taking a look at the work that's being done throughout this race on Harry Gant's car, hoping to give you a better look at what can be built from those machines in time to come. We think that they're into something truly revolutionary and something that will work. Let's see what's happening that's important in racing today. Chris Economaki.
Behind the garage door of every NASCAR team competing today lurks an advanced technological world never dreamed of by teams of the past. A world full of scientific and mechanical data that, when computed correctly, reveals the exact formula for winning on the track. The 1980s is a high-tech decade in every facet of life, stock car racing included. In the early days of the sport, the shade tree mechanic made his car a winner with an experienced touch and a practiced ear. But with the advent of the computer, the microchip, telemetry, and use of wind tunnels, the toolbox is in the cellar gathering dust, and stock, as in stock car racing, a thing of the past.
NASCAR, National Association of Stock Car Auto Racing Inspectors, who certify that every important detail of these cars is stock, that every part is available to the American public and listed in the manufacturer's parts book for that car and for that year.
That's not the way it is anymore. These cars are built from the ground up, from a blueprint. Everything is made just especially for racing. It's definitely a lot more scientific than it used to be.
It's almost updated year to year now. It's got to be a very, very fast developing sport.
The innovation is staggering. There are sophisticated dynamometers to measure every aspect of engine performance. Readouts, printouts, 3D cross-sections to calculate and evaluate all areas of car design. In addition, wind tunnels to differentiate back from friction. Today, there's even an onboard computer hitching a ride.
With a computer, you might read 10, 15, 20 different factors on a car. A driver can only possibly give you 1 or 2 at a time. You'll have to run 200 miles with a driver to get what you can get in 2 laps with a computer.
It definitely helps us in some areas, but the only part I don't like about it, on that throttle linkage, there's a fitting in that computer that tells when I take my foot off the floor. In the past, I've been able to lie to them and tell them it's on the floor, but now they look, and it's hard to lie against that little computer.
0. We have Star Rocket booster ignition and liftoff of Challenger and the 10th Space Shuttle flight.
Over the last 2 seasons, NASCAR has entered the space age with a device right off the space shuttle called the fuel flow meter. When put on a race car, it enables the driver to know his exact fuel consumption.
The fuel flow meter takes the guesswork out of how far you can go on a racetrack, and now with this flow meter, we can tell right down to the last corner how much fuel we've used and how much is left, and just exactly how far we can go.
In the old days, state-of-the-art in stocks was a pull wire attached to a trapdoor to check tread wear. Today, it's a black book chock full of trade secrets, including specifications for setting up the car. It is also rifle drill axles, as well as custom-made seats for keeping the driver safe and comfortable.
It's a form-fit seat. When I become part of the seat, or the seat becomes part of the driver, and then all of that becomes part of the car. In other words, I could stay in the seat even without seat belts. That's how close and tight the thing fits. I'm not going to run without seat belts, don't get me wrong, but as far as just riding around a racetrack, the seat would not throw me out of the car.
Many advancements are designed to correct handling problems like pushing or understeering, where the front of a car loses traction in a turn and slides towards the wall. Or oversteering, also called being loose, where the rear end tries to break free. To fix these ailments, teams can make an adjustment known as changing the stagger. It involves measuring the circumference of all the tires, no two being exactly alike, and placing the smaller ones on the left, or inside of the car, the larger ones on the right, or outside of the car. The reason for this is that the outside wheels on a car travel further in a turn than the wheels on the inside of the car. And with a proper stagger, the car itself helps the driver turn left.
Stagger can take all the human error out of it if you get it just right. The car will do what it's supposed to on its own.
If changing the stagger doesn't improve the handling for the driver, his crew chief can perform another exercise called jacking the weight. This is accomplished by turning one of 4 jack screws inside the car. As the screw turns, it exerts or releases pressure on the suspension system, which transfers weight from one side to the other. If done properly, the transfer of weight will alter the traction or bite on the track, which in turn improves the handling of the car.
When the weight's set perfect in a car and you're driving on the racetrack, that means you're handling perfect. The car will feel like all 4 wheels are gripping the ground at the same amount of weight through the turns. It takes very little pressure to turn the car. The car will stick as it turns, and that's when you usually win the race.
And here's the latest. You're now inside the $1 million transporter of Hal Needham, and there you see their computer and a study of the dynamic forces that work on an automobile under race conditions. Those 4 circles are the tires on the car, and it will show the weight distribution every second that the car is on the track. It'll also show the G-forces the driver picks up as he goes up on the 33-degree banking, and it will give miles per hour. And it will record this throughout the race. They can get an idea of if the stagger is working, just how the car is working throughout the entire event, and perhaps can help them for the next race, but for certain the next time at Talladega. It would be invaluable to know. That's the latest. And now back here on pit road, the drivers are in, and the word is from Bill Gazaway, 10 to 15 minutes. The track is drying out. We were just about set to go. You can see how the track is drying out. You can see some of the area that's drying a little better than some of the others here. And the wind has snapped up here, and that's helping immensely. We have a gigantic crowd. Looks like over 100,000 have gathered here at Talladega. The skies still look ominous, but we do think we're going to be able to get it in. It is a 188-lap race on this 2.6-mile course, and 42 drivers getting edgy. Of course, some of the veterans, they've gone through this many, many times. There you see part of the congregation gathered at Talladega, Alabama. We'll return with more live flag-to-flag coverage of the Talladega 500 after this word from your local station. Ken Squire speaking to you live from the Alabama International Motor Speedway. We had a shower just 15 minutes prior to air time, about a half hour before race time, and it was a frog swallower. They are now continuing to dry out the track, and the track looks good everywhere but turn 3. NASCAR observers around the course are reporting pretty much the track is coming along. Turn 3 continues to be a bit of a problem. Pace car will be running about 75 miles per hour, and we'll see that pace car out here before too much longer for an observation of how the course is drying out. The late report from the weather is sort of a mixed bag. They think they're going to be able to get it in today, David, but it's optional they can get this in. It rained all day yesterday, which means the International Race of Champions, which we had intended to bring you yesterday afternoon here on CBS, will now be a 3-event series in 1985, with the last event coming up on Saturday, August 10th, and it will pit Darrell Waltrip on the pole with 31 points, Bobby Rahal outside, the Indianapolis car driver on the outside, and then, of course, comes Sneva, Watson, A.J. Foyt, Mario Andretti. Don't miss it, Saturday, August 10th. You wanted to make a point about that tire rule, David.
Yeah, well, we spoke about the fact that it had been changed today, but I think we never actually said why they changed it today. And the reason, we know why they've got the tire rule, which is to save money for some of the less well-endowed teams. The reason they changed it today was because there's been so much rain here that we have an absolutely, completely green track. And the tires, Jeff Bodine and Darrell Waltrip both mentioned in the pit earlier on this morning that they could wear tires out on this track when it's green in as little as 13 laps, wear the tire right out.
Because the tire grips into the asphalt more and it rips the tire off.
There is no groove. There's no rubber down. There's nothing. It's all been washed off. And so for safety's sake, they obviously had to rescind that rule today.
So the tires are scrubbing against the clean pavement, which, of course,
just wears
when
them
they, yes, it just simply wears the rubber off the tires.
All right, 1983 and defending 1984 champion of the Talladega 500 is standing by on pit road with Chris Economy.
Well, I'm with Dale Earnhardt. This is his race, but more importantly, racing has changed, and a lot of the people in racing have changed. Dale Earnhardt, in addition to being a former national champion and winner of this race the last 2 years, is a corporate race driver of the highest order. I saw him last night having dinner with the chairman of the board of Wrangler Jeans, and I understand you've made 18 public appearances this year on behalf of your sponsor. What have you had to go through to become such a polished public speaker, Dale?
Well, that championship really did it for me, you know, as far as Wrangler's concerned. They were looking at that time for a car to sponsor, and luckily, you know, we got hooked up with them when we won the championship. And I've changed from 2 or 3 different cars and during the course of 4 years now, and they moved right along with me. So it's been a real good association for Dale Earnhardt.
What about your personal life, Dale? You know, race drivers historically like to get together at a certain bar or gathering place and you can shoot the breeze and have some fun, but you've got to put a suit and tie on and go out with sponsors and customers and so forth and do business in the evenings as well as drive the race car on the day. Has that been a tough adjustment to make?
Well, it hadn't been with Wrangler. You know, they're live it to the limit, down-home type people, and you know, they're from Greensboro there in North Carolina. They're a North Carolina-based company, so the home ranch is, and you know, it's just a down-to-earth bunch of people. I can go sit down with the chairman of the board just like a good friend or an old uncle of mine, and you know, we sit down and really relate good to each other. And you know, Ed and Vivian have become real good friends of Teresa and mine, and you know, they're just a great group of people to be around. The whole group of people involved with Wrangler that I have to do business with, right down to the last person. But you know, they've been really good for me and Richard Childers' race team, and hopefully we can win another Talladega race for them.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. In other words, your commercial involvements haven't taken anything away from your driving. You don't have to worry about there being someplace to do it. Now, let's talk a little bit about Talladega and Dale Earnhardt. This seems to be your place. Last year, the finish was outstanding. What is it about this racetrack that you have such a handle on?
Well, I like the race here to start with. You know, Talladega's a place to run fast, and we all get together down here, and we can, you know, do that and draft and put on a good show at those speeds. I'm all against NASCAR slowing us down on these racetracks, and I like to come down here and run flat out. My car's worked awful good in the past couple of years here, and even if it's down a little bit, the draft will make the difference, and I'm hoping it'll make the difference today on Bill Elliott if he stays in there all day, and if I'm around at the end, I can get by him with the draft.
It's been said, Dale, that Bill Elliott's success in NASCAR this year has caused a lot of internal problems with a lot of the teams. Has it been a problem for you guys?
Not for us. You know, we've had a few engine problems this year, and you know, the guys just keep coming back and working harder every week, trying to straighten things out and make things better. When all last season didn't have any problems at all. We've been unfortunate this year and had some problems that we worked really hard to straighten out and make better, and hopefully we can get that under handle and come back and win some races.
Okay, but talking about the track being washed clean by all this heavy rain, it's going to be a tight racetrack. How long will it be before the groove will develop? There's some drivers say it'll be not until after the first pit stop if it's all green.
Well, the rubber get back on the track pretty quick, but if the sun doesn't pop out, the groove won't get slick, and it doesn't matter whether there's a groove or not. So I'm looking for, about the first pit stop, the groove will be there and be pretty good and solid. You can run hard through there, and if the sun don't come out, it won't get too slick today.
Okay, though. Thanks very much, Dale, and have a good drive. And let's go up top now to Ken Squire.
A year ago, it was called perhaps the best Talladega 500. Many said it was the best race ever. 10 drivers came down into that last lap. There had been 68 lead changes, or 67 to that point, among some 16 drivers. And then on the very last lap in turn number 3, you remember if you were with us here at CBS, that it was Dale Earnhardt that swept down the inside underneath Ricky Rudd and went on to victory, and then Rudd was beaten right on the finish line in another photo finish by Buddy Baker. We're looking forward to that kind of a race again today. With more information on the telemetry that's in car number 33 for this Talladega 500, let's go to Mike Joy.
Well, Ken, I'm in the back of the Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham Bandit truck. Above us is a race car, and right here is where Harry Gant's car will be transported back to North Carolina. But today, this truck is a giant computer terminal, if you will. A fellow named Joe Sargent, who's working in the back of the truck today, helped develop this telemetry system in 1954 for the Air Force Polaris missiles. About 1975, he brought it to Hal Needham, and they used it on the rocket car used to set the land speed record. And he is responsible for the computer in the car and all the monitoring devices on top of the spring pads at the engine and so forth. The information is fed back here to this terminal, and Jim Mastro with Hewlett-Packard takes that and interprets it how so that it's of value to the race team.
Well, basically, we take data off the car, like loads and temperatures and other information that may be useful in this race and in future races in setting up the car for quicker speed around the track, basically.
How is this going to help Travis Carter on pit road today?
Well, today we're set up to take 7 channels, of which we get 10 pieces of information from. One of the things we hope to be able to determine precisely today is which tire may be flat in the event of a flat.
And then you can get a baseline from this race so that next time you come back to Talladega, you'll know how the car should respond to certain changes?
Absolutely. Talladega and other tracks like Talladega, like Daytona, for instance, next February.
All of the readings come back here to this screen. They can be plotted out on paper and taken to pit road. And as Jim explained, 7 of the readings here come directly from the car, and 3 other readings are calculated from these 7. In all, the computer has capability of monitoring up to 20 different signals and imparting that information to pit road. Ken?
Well, there he is. He was among the missing, but they have found A.J. Foyt. A.J. is the old A.J. He barks at his crew. He's ready to go. He had a great qualifying here at Talladega this year, and he looks like he is really ready for business.
Looks like the supreme athlete. Oh, there he's breaking into the truck now, getting down to the car.
It's getting serious, man.
They are going to start under yellow, and then they'll start counting after about 3 laps. I think we're just about ready for the command to fire engines here.
I think Bobby Allison actually hit the nail on the head. One of the things that I particularly don't like about racing after it's been raining such a lot like it has here, old AJ's run out of air now. He's going to set back to a slow walk back to the car there.
He has a long walk, too. He qualified 4th outside of the 2nd row.
Surely they won't start the engines before he gets in his car, Ken, and they'll give us a moment to say he's going to run at Darlington on Labor Day weekend for the first time ever, and he'll have to run as a rookie.
That's what I'm going to ask you. Is he going to have to be a rookie?
He will have to go through the rookie test. Can't qualify the first.
Gentlemen.
Here we go. Gentlemen, start
your engines. All right, there's the command from Governor James Thompson, Governor of Illinois, and there goes A.J.
I'd run that fast he is.
The marathon man, A.J. Foyt, sprinting for his car.
Well, they did start the engines without him, didn't they?
42 cars ready to go. 188 laps for $450,000. CBS live flag-to-flag coverage of the Talladega 500 about to commence. Over 100,000 being asked by the track announcer about their favorites. Now you're looking at Benny Parsons. Former winner here, great driver, just a great human being. Richard Petty won 27 of 48 races back in 1967. Bobby Allison won 10 of 31 in 1972. Leroy Yarborough, the late and great Leroy Roy Yarborough won 9 of 27 and 69. David Pearson 11 of 28. 11 of 28, 1973. And in 1981 and 82, Darrell Waltrip won 12 races in each of those years, with 31 races in 81, 30 races in 82. The issue is, can the man on the pole here today go for his 9th, become the all-time winning driver on this schedule of 28 races?
Well, looking at his qualifying time, certainly looks like it's well and truly on the cards. The one thing that could thwart him today is that lowering sky there. A lot of moisture still hanging around in the sky here, and it says a lot to the NASCAR fans, and there's so many people here today. Now there's another thing, taking those tire pressures, that's another thing that can induce stagger. They sometimes blow up the pressure in one tire to change the stagger, or to put it in the tire in the first place.
One of the things that hasn't worked this year, as you look at Neil Bonnet, is this new rule of the 340 carburetors. That hasn't worked. They said they were trying to slow the cars down and bring them together. And since they put it into effect at the Firecracker 400 in Daytona, at every race they set new records now.
They have, Ken, and I think that's been surprising, particularly to the NASCAR officials. Everybody thought when they did it, of course, it's not a complete change of carburetors. They are using a 390 carburetor base on the old 800 carburetor, which would just reduce the flow of the air a little bit going into the engine. But they thought it would hurt the Ford more than the GM cars, but I think it has reversed itself and perhaps hurt the GM cars a little bit more than the Ford, because it just simply didn't affect their cars.
Waltrip qualified, however, with a new record the other day. Darrell Waltrip came through with a good run, did he not?
At Pocono, Pennsylvania, yes.
So it's been up and down, but I don't think it's working the way they thought it would.
I think if they want to slow them down properly, they're going to have to actually change the size of the carburetor, not just the carburetor plate.
Yes. In-car cameras. Let's take a look at them now. Here with Kyle Petty, car number 7. Remember, he finished for this Ford in second place behind Bill Elliott in the Winston 500 on this track this past May. Kyle Petty, number 7. Right in front of him, you see David Pearson with the number 21 these days. And now you're with the Bandit, Harry Gant, number 33. Old handsome Harry looking to win this race for the first time. Right in front of him, Buddy Baker. And here you see Bodine, Jeff Bodine's car, and directly in front of him, the Oldsmobile of the legend, A.J. Foyt, ready to work here today. And as Ned said, he will be going to Darlington this year come Labor Day. And there you see Bill Elliott's number 9 resting down in front. It's Harold Kinder on the flag stand, motions the safety equipment by. I think they're ready to bring that in now. Now there's Tommy Ellis, former national sportsman champion in the state of Virginia. Talk about a tough race driver. That's as tough as you get right there.
He certainly is. Ken, the word is that they'll take 3 laps under caution and they'll get the green flag the 4th time around. Isn't he intense?
You bet. And he's that intense, be it quarter mile or third mile. He's raced for a couple of decades in Virginia. Anytime Tommy Ellis is going to run, particularly in the old days against Sonny Hutchins, you wanted to get a ticket and sit well back because the fireworks would happen.
Well, it's a pretty intense time of day for these guys. There's been a lot of hanging around, and that doesn't help the adrenaline. It keeps flowing for a long time, and it's a nasty build-up to a race when it rains like it did just at the critical moment. And the track really is still not dry, not by NASCAR standards, and 3 more laps with these cars isn't really going to dry it right out. They're going to have to be very careful coming to pit lane on their first stops, because it won't dry out in pit lane at all. There's no way to dry that out. There you see some of the service trucks doing their best.
I would point out to you the best position to win this race from as the pace cars come on is second. 5 times this race in the 16 previous runnings has been won from the second position. Allison in 71, Baker in 75, Donnie Allison in 77, Bonnet in 88, Richard Petty in 74, Dale Earnhardt, Waltrip, and Dale Earnhardt. Give me that again. It's Allison, Baker, Donnie Allison, Bonnet, and Waltrip have been those that have won from the second position. We'll be back with more from Talladega, Alabama, after these messages. Live. Thank you for your indulgence this past hour. While they've got this track sorted out, they've done a magnificent job. 3 laps they're running now that are not counted, and perhaps 7 under green and yellow conditions, and then they will turn them loose. Again, here is the starting grid. It's the Ford of Bill Elliott that is on the pole, and flanking him is Cale Yarborough, looking for his first win of the season. Then in row 2 comes one of the all-time giants, 3-time Grand National champion David Pearson, in another Ford. And then the Oldsmobile of A.J. Foyt. Going to row 3, Kyle Petty's Ford is there, and Jeff Bodine, the Rick Hendrick car. Row 4 is Joe Ruttman and Buddy Arrington. Buddy Arrington was so ecstatic about his qualifying, going 200 miles an hour, he says, I'm ready to quit and go home, but he didn't quit. He's here and ready to go with his Ford. Row 5, it's Terry Labonte and Sterling Marlin. Then in row 6 will be Bobby Hillen and Ricky Rudd. Watch for Rudd today. Row 7, Benny Parsons and Dale Earnhardt. In row 8, Tommy Ellis and Neil Bonnet. For row 9, it's Tim Richmond and the leading rookie qualifier from St. Louis, Missouri, Ken Schrader. Row 10 is Buddy Baker and Phil Parsons. Going to row 11, there you find Harry Gant, one of our onboard cameras, and Davey Allison there, car number 1, his first Grand National ride. Row 12 is Rusty Wallace, last year's Grand National Rookie of the Year, and a former winner of the event, flanking him, Ron Bouchard. Going to row 13, it's Darrell Waltrip, twice a winner, and Connie Saylor. Row 14 is Phil Barkdahl, along with Jimmy Schmutt Meads. Row 15 for today's race will be Richard Petty, well back, and the surprise winner of the Firecracker 400 at Daytona, Greg Sachs. Then in row 16, Colorado's Clark Dwyer and Rick Wilson from down in Bartow, Florida. Going to row 17, as you see, take 1 on the field. Dave Marcus, the 76 winner. Donald Howard. Row 18 is Lenny Pond. Eddie Birchwheel there in the outside of row 18. Row 19, Grant Adcox out of Chattanooga is back. And Bobby Allison relegated to the 19th row with his car number 22. We'll tell you more about that car later. Row 20, Bobby Wowak and Lake Speed. Remember, he finished second at the Daytona 500 this year. Out back, Trevor Boyce and J.D. McDuffie. Remember our story about McDuffie at Daytona and his new sponsorship and all those hopes? Well, he's back with Rumpel, the Rumpel Furniture Store over there, a neighbor of his, Sanford, North Carolina, helping him out, got him here, and he's getting ready for a go. Green and yellow this time by 7 laps. They will hold positions at about 75 miles per hour.
It's going to be very hard on the trucks, which are out there as well with them.
The current point standings on the Winston Cup Tours, they prepare to go back to Brooklyn, Michigan. Bill Elliott is first, Waltrip second, Bodine in the 3rd spot, followed by Ricky Rudd. And in 6th these days is Terry Labonte, 7th is Kyle Petty, 8th is Harry Gant, 9th is Bobby Allison, 10th is Lake Speed. What a change from the old days. You look down through this list, you find Richard Petty back in 19th position. Bill Bonnet right up there in 4th behind Jeff Bodine, as you saw on the screen. He's looking for a good finish. The last 5 winners of this event, we get set for a go. There they are, Dale Earnhardt, the only man that's won it 2 years in a row. Waltrip, of course. Ron Bouchard, that great victory in 1981. Neil Bonnet, the winner back in 1980, and he had to fight right to the end with Cale Yarborough. Started in 1969 on a strange day, that one. A mixture of Grand American cars and NASCAR Grand National cars after many of the superstars, including Richard Petty, Leroy Yarborough, elected not to run this race. There's the yellow and green out. They'll hold position and start counting laps as they come to the line. And this regimen will continue for about 7 laps before they're turned loose today.
The race cars can drive the racetrack perhaps quicker than anything else. Of course, the safety vehicles have been running around the track since the rain stopped almost an hour ago. But the heat off the exhaust of these cars will have a better drying effect than anything that they've had out there. So he should get them in pretty good shape before too long.
Bill Gazaway from NASCAR is now saying that those headers are doing just that. We may go under green in 5 laps.
We can see some wet spots on the racetrack. Of course, the wet spots, David, in the turns is where it really bothers you.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's still, by road racing standards, that looks pretty dry. But obviously, when you're throwing these relatively stock with no downforce help from the wind or from the airflow much going around these corners at 200 mile an hour, when you want it dry, you want it really dry. Those damp spots cause havoc. Of course, these big slick tires, as well as the tremendous heat coming out of these racing engines, even going slowly, these slick tires obviously help to squeeze the water away pretty quick too.
I'm sure there perhaps hopefully some road racing fans that are watching today. You do run in the rain because you have special rain tires.
Well, we run in the rain, as you say, we have special rain tires. And a lot of people ask me, well, why don't the stock car drivers, why don't they race in the rain with rain tires? But it's not really the same sort of thing. I don't think it'd be very practical to race on these high-banked oval tracks, even with rain tires. It's not the same thing at all. There's nowhere to go. You can't spin here without hitting the wall or going to the infield. And race in the rain on a road, of course, in a place like this.
Ned Jarrett, David Hobbs alongside. Again, how difficult is it to win from the pole here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway, Talladega? Now, there you see the story. Talladega pole winners. Cale Yarborough, 84, came up with a 5th. Cale Yarborough on 83, 24. Jeff Bodine, 15th. Really tough sledding off that pole position on this race.
Sure is. Dave Marcus, the only man that has done it.
76. Let's go to the pit area. We may have a report on conditions from there.
You're looking at the pit of Bill Elliott, the pole sitter, and I'm right behind the pit here. And the conditions, as bad as they may be for the pit crews, think of the television announcers who have to work the pits here. It's pretty soggy and muddy. Wanted you all to know what I'm putting up with today. Now let's go down pit road to Mike Joy.
Chris, here's the reason why they don't race in the rain. These Goodyear tires have only these small, what they call sights. And all these do is indicate wear on the tire. You can tell the tire's worn more on the outside or the inside edge. They don't go very well in the rain because there's no place for the water to go. I'm standing with Leonard Wood of the Wood Brothers. He and his brother Glenn have been racing on this circuit for some 36 years that Leonard's been changing right front tires. You ever get tired of Sunday afternoons?
Well, big long race, you know, you can change a lot of tires, you get tired, yes.
But the big important races, the ones on the super speedways, those are the ones where the Wood Brothers have been in victory lane more than anybody else. Is there a knack to it? Is there a secret to it?
Well, you know, we run more super speedways than we do anywhere else, and, you know, naturally we have better luck because we set cars up better on super speedways, I think. We haven't really had a short track car up until this year, and now we have a short track car, and you know, we're concentrating some on it too, but as a whole, we have better luck on super speedways.
Well, you were the people that made pit stops a fine art in all kinds of racing. You went to Indianapolis and introduced the 25-second pit stop. It helped these folks get it down to 12 seconds. And when all is said and done in the sport of stock car racing, the Wood Brothers will be remembered for that achievement. And that's something you've got to be really proud of, that you really took and made this a fine art.
Well, we started back in 1961 and realized there's a lot of time to be gained in the pits. There was about 45 seconds that it took to make a pit stop, and so we started concentrating on it. And then, you know, for a while we was quite a bit ahead, but now everybody's caught up to us, and you know, it's really hard to beat them now, but you know, we just have to do the best we can.
Getting a little bit of rain down here. Kyle Petty is your driver this year. You've had David Pearson, Neil Bonnet, A.J. Foyt. All the greats have been behind the wheel of your race car. What about Kyle Petty and the way he's coming along?
Kyle's doing a real good job. He's really interested in doing well. He seems to understand what's going on out there, and I think it's just coming along great.
I asked Kyle in our last telecast, isn't it kind of like the Hatfields and McCoys hooking up, that you raced against the Pettys for so many years?
No, I don't feel that way at all. You know, Richard seems to be a real good friend of ours now, and, well, he always has been off of the track, but, you know, sometimes competitors is just going to be competitors on the racetrack, and that's just natural. But as far as friends go, we're real good friends.
Well, Ken, we're getting a light sprinkle down here on pit road. The umbrellas are starting to come out, but nobody's getting really wet. It's so hot and muggy that it's just a light mist right now.
That mini shower began to develop in turn number 1 and has come down toward pit road. Let's talk to Kyle Petty, 5th place qualifier for the 17th Talladega 500. Kyle Petty, Ken Squire here at CBS Central. Do you read me? Hello, Kyle.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. How about the weather conditions out there right now? How much of the track is under rain at this time?
Well, right now, the track's a little wet down low in the corners. It's a little wet in a couple of different places, but, you know, the straightaways are still a little damp, but I think it's about right that we can race on it if it'll quit.
We looked into your windshield, and it looked to us like you're picking up some new rain spatters out there, Kyle.
Well, it's been sprinkling a little bit off and on ever since we started drying the track, but we were out here running yesterday, or the other day during qualifying, and it's about like it was the day we qualified.
That doesn't concern you?
Not really. You know, as long as we get the track dried off pretty good, then it's not really going to be that big a deal. If it sprinkles off and on like this all day long, we'll still be able to race pretty good.
They're saying 3 to go when you come by Harold Kinder this time, Kyle. Good luck to you this afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
There's the indicator. With all this new computerized world, that's still the best way to let the guys know that you're down to 3.
Right, yeah.
where the weather's coming from definitely looks better than where it's just been, which we can see over Harold Kinder's shoulder there. That's a little shower that's just passed over. But where it's coming from definitely looks on the bright side, which all these fans and the drivers, I'm sure, will be very glad to see.
I don't think the rain, that the little sprinkles that we've had now, has wetted the track any more than it was, since the cars are going around and they would dry it off very quickly. So if it doesn't become a hard shower, it shouldn't affect them too much.
And it looks pretty good, but I mean, at least you can see the trees now the other side of the track, whereas yesterday you couldn't even see the other side of the track.
3 away from going under green. 3 laps have now been officially completed. 3 laps officially completed in a green and yellow condition, and they're getting set to turn them loose 2.5 laps from now. We're here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway, live with you today. Ned Jarrett, David Hobbs alongside. Out of the pits, Chris Economac, Mike Joy. I'm Ken Squire. We're in for 188 laps, hopefully. 94 laps, the halfway juncture of the race that would then make it official, 94 plus 1. Here you see the field back into the 33-degree banking, turn 3.
Ken, we showed the point standings a little bit earlier. Now, anytime a driver leads 1 lap during competition, he gets 5 bonus points. So Bill Elliott, I assume, now, as a result of being considered the leader of these 3 laps, has picked up those 5 bonus points. And as close as the points are, that can make the difference in winning the championship and losing it at the end of the season.
The old editor of the National Speed Sport News, Chris Economaki, has a message for us on the pit road.
You know how important this race is? Everybody around the country is in front of the television set watching today if they're a racing fan. Well, up in Indiana, the Hoosier Auto Race fans has their annual race night at the Kokomo Speedway tonight. But to watch the television show, they scheduled their annual hog roast this afternoon, and they're up there in Kokomo eating barbecued pig and watching our telecast. We want to say hi to you all up there in Kokomo.
Now that is a real reporter, Chris Economaki, wearing his own camera there, ready to take action shots as the cars come into the pit. One of which is Bobby Allison there, number
22. Allison is in. Now remember, this is his own team now, no longer part of Dygard. Greg Sachs is out there with the Dygard car.
Bobby doesn't have a great deal to lose. He would have to go to the rear of the field, and will, but he was starting in 38th position anyway, so he really won't drop that far behind. He'll just lose 3 positions.
I guess better now than in 2 laps' time, as long as it's not anything too serious, that is.
Dygard has had the winning engine at Daytona and the Firecracker 400 for the last 2 years. A year ago for Richard Petty, and this year, of course, with Greg Sachs and what was called the experimental car.
This is a new car for Allison. He has been running Buicks for the last couple of years. This is a Chevrolet that he's renting from the Raymond Beetle team that they built to do some comparison testing with. And Bobby rented the car here for this race. Didn't really have a lot of time with it to get it worked out and dialed in the way that he wanted. I talked to him this morning, and he said that they continued to gain on it all along. And you just have to see how it goes here today as to whether they have their problems worked out or not.
There you see the front row. Of course, I think this is going to be the needle match of the day. We talk about the Chevrolet problems, the Buick problems against the Fords, but there you see on the front row the factory-backed Ford of Cale Yarborough alongside Bill Elliott. And the Elliott boys, as we've already seen, do it all from that little tiny workshop down there in Dawsonville. That's the needle match of the day, I feel.
Let's see what the computer is showing us right now, possibly. They're going 79 miles per hour. Less than 5,000 RPM. They haven't even come up into the 5,000 area. And there you see part of the hookup in his car that measures with those sensors and then feeds it back. Hewlett-Packard has spent a considerable amount of time, about the last 6 months, along with Mr. Sargent, who we remember from the days of the Budweiser rocket car, broke the sound barrier. I don't think they've ever put that in as a true land speed record because the qualification for that is a 2-way run, but it was the Needham car that went to the Edwards Riley. Really exploded off a tremendous run. That telemetry is now being used here in stock car racing. There is the Rumpel car. J.D. McDuffie, number 70 out of Sanford, North Carolina, a provisional starter today.
Now, Rumpel is in Elkton, North Carolina, Ken. That's a different town. That's in the western part of the state.
It's about 8 miles.
Yeah, well, a little ways up through there. They're saying 2 to go. Darrell Walker has radioed in and said his still a little wet in the tri-oval, and we can see out there that there are some damp spots on the tri-oval. Darrell is one of those drivers that wants it to be absolutely perfect before that green flag drops.
Well, coming out of the tri-oval, if anybody tries to really drop low on the apron, it's extremely wet still. So that'll cut the road down here to effectively 3.5 lanes at most.
Okay, they're going to give them 1 8. We leave 2 to go the next time they come around, so they've extended the lap to hopefully try to dry that out a little bit.
Let's go to Mike Joy.
I'm sitting with a fellow who best knows the way to victory lane here at Talladega, Bud Moore. Buddy Baker's driven his Fords to victory here 3 times, Bobby Allison once, and Dale Earnhardt once. When you and I sat on this pit road 2 years ago and watched them come through the tri-oval and didn't know who won because the finish is so far down the racetrack. You got to have a lot of nervous moments sitting here when you can only see the cars for perhaps a quarter of the way around the racetrack.
Well, you know, it is a little nervous because you can't tell exactly what's happening. You can't see the car except when it goes by, and so we have to sort of rely on the radio and all this to make contact with the driver. But it's a wonderful feeling to know that you are coming down to get the checker flag, and you know you got a good shot winning the race.
You've built winning cars for the best names in the business, not only here in NASCAR, but for Parnelli Jones and George Follmer in the Trans Am circuit. What's the Bud Moore key to winning races, to preparing cars to win races?
Well, you know, it takes a lot of preparation. My guys back at the shop, they do a real good job with the engines and all the chassis, and it takes a good team working all together for everybody, and that's what makes a winning effort. And it takes a good association with the driver and the car owner and the people that works in the pits and on the cars to be sure to get the car exactly right for the driver so he can drive it and get the best performance out of the car, and so that's what we try to do.
I think one thing that makes your team unique is the fellas that are on your team. The core group has been together longer than anybody else on pit road.
Well, our pit crew has been together now 9 years, so they know their business. They know everything, all the tricks, and they know all the tricks that all the others do, and they got a few tricks they know they do themselves. So we just got one good team that's been together a long time.
You know the way to victory lane. Can you get there today?
We're hoping to get there today. We're running awful good, and I think maybe we got a good shot getting there today.
That's Bud Moore, owner of Ricky Rudd's car. Ken?
Kathy Bodine anxiously awaiting the green flag commencement of the Talladega 500, and we'll be back here for it right after these messages. There you see Greg Sachs, number 77, starting 30th. He ran out of money, engines, everything but confidence in his own ability. Took a 3-race deal a little early this year with James Hilton. Then Robert Yates made an offer for a 6-race deal in experimental cars for Dygaard. And he proved his worth, driving his old Chevy with a Dygaard engine at Daytona, winning the Firecracker 400 in the biggest upset of the year. They were planning to bring a new car here, a Pontiac, but didn't have time to prepare it. All right, coming to the tri-oval, we should see a pace car in. Governor James Thompson, the governor of Illinois, as a tremendous roar goes up from this great throng. And we settle down for the 17th running of a race that had 13 races, 13 faces in its first outings. Let's see if we have a new winner today. They break for the green. Having completed 8 laps, having completed 8 under a yellow-green situation, they break into turn number 1, and guess who's out front? In second spot is Cale Yarborough, and breaking on the outside for third, A.J. Foyt. Here comes Bodine on the outside, out of turn number 2, wheeling for fourth. Up to about 170 miles per hour into the back straightaway, going up over the 200-mile-an-hour barrier now, and A.J., the Oldsmobile, number 14, on the inside of the Ford of Cale Yarborough as they go down into turn number 3. There's Bodine, and there you see Joe Ruttman. Joe Ruttman right behind him, running the 5th position from Bodine's car. He pulls up on A.J. You're inside of Jeff Bodine's automobile, closing on Cale Yarborough. Bodine making a run for it in the Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Back they come to the tri-oval at over 200 miles an hour. Underneath the flag stand, down into turn number 1. You're in third place automobile.
All right, there you can see them dancing and jumping around on that banking. Jeff Bodine just holding on there in that draft. Tremendous draft from those 2 lead cars that Jeff Bodine's getting at the moment.
And David, some people said that the Fords are hard to draft, but he's certainly doing a good job at it right here.
Hanging right in there, and there right behind him is Joe Ruttman. Joe Ruttman qualified really well the other afternoon.
Dale Earnhardt is pulled up into 5th. A.J. falls to 6th. Kyle Petty lies 7th.
And Earnhardt started all the way back in the 14th position, Ken, so he is really a driver on the move.
He must have done some pretty enterprising overtaking in that first lap.
closing on Tommy Ellis in 18. There goes Ellis down, and you can see the RPMs at 193 miles per hour, 194, a little over 7,400 RPMs being turned out of the motor of Harry Gant's car. Back with Harry Gant at number 33. Up to 207 miles per hour, and he's all the way up on top. 7,800 RPM.
209 mile an hour, something else as they come to the triangle here.
He really picked up a draft there somewhere, didn't he?
Yeah.
Look at qualified at 198 miles an hour.
Look at those cars shake and rattle. And he didn't even qualify the first day they were in such trouble. Gant never even came out the first day of qualifying. They just couldn't get it hitched up. Hitched up they are now.
These front five have made a bit of a break for it. A.J. Foyt, I don't know whether he's holding up the rest of the group, but this front five cars are definitely pulling away from A.J. Foyt.
Jimmy Means on pit road. Means, number 52 on pit road. Front five coming down to complete the 12th of 188 laps.
Dale Earnhardt going underneath Ruttman there as they come to the triangle. Side by side, inches apart.
And look how much ground they lose when they get side by side if they break away from the draft.
Yeah, they broke away there in the front three. Elliott, Yarborough and Bodine made a big break. I was surprised that Dale Earnhardt stayed alongside Ruttman for such a long time there, because that's lost them, that lead car.
It cost them more than a second on the racetrack.
Yeah.
6 is A.J. Foyt.
Which at 209 mile an hour a second is a heck of a long way.
It sure is.
There we see the picture from Jeff Bodine's car as he follows that car of Cale Yarborough. The front three making a bit of a break for it. There was a bit of a break, as we say, a second on the racetrack. Soon covered.
Bodine does not want to let loose on those front two Fords. Everybody on the watches. Now, Earnhardt is stuck back in behind Ruttman and is trying to close up.
There's Kyle Petty on the inside of
Terry Ronnie 7. Now Sterling Marlin pulls into 7. There's Kyle Petty on the inside.
There, the Bonnie on the outside there. There we see Kyle.
And now you see Labonte going by into 8. Kyle dropping the 9th. There goes Phil Parsons up a spot.
Now that's what Kyle needs. He needs Phil Parsons to pull on in front of him to give him a bit of a drop.
Kyle got on the inside and out of the draft of the other cars, and you saw him and he drove by. There's Neil Bonnie going by.
That drops Kyle Petty back into the 11th position. Back with the leaders. Elliott first. Yarborough second. Bodine third. None of them have won the Talladega 500. Here's the story on pit road from Mike Joy.
Again, already one casualty of the delayed start. During the caution lap, Jimmy Means' car fouled all 8 spark plugs. They'll change him and get him back into the race. Meanwhile, Connie Saylor's car has been pushed to the garage area with motor trouble.
The spark plugs is one thing Ernie Elliott pointed out from the early going. That could be a problem for them, but it's not a problem it doesn't look like for car number 9.
There's Elliott. He's been here since 1977. His best finish was in 1982 when he came home in the 6th position. He won here in remarkable style, the fastest 500-mile race in history at 186 miles per hour. And right now, he's knuckled down and he's trying to do it one more time. Coming by to complete the 15.
Now Dale Earnhardt and Joe Ruttman have hooked up together in a good draft. They're beginning to cut down a little bit on that distance that they lost when Earnhardt tried to pass Ruttman. Two cars working together can certainly run a lot faster than one car. David, they're close enough to those front three now that they're picking up the draft from those cars.
And of course, Cale Yarborough, as we've seen so many times before, is the absolute master of that, following people around and around and getting into a little two-car pack and pulling away from the field.
He's sitting where he wants to be right now.
Oh, absolutely. Perfect. I wonder what effect this green track's having on the tyre wear. You know, we were talking about it earlier on. We're coming up to that sort of 13 to 15 lap mark pretty soon.
Yes, I was a little surprised at the 13th lap. I didn't realize that they could throw them off that quick.
Back with the leaders. You were back in 7th, 8th, and 9th position there. Watching that fight as Kyle Petty tries to stay up. And a little bit of smoke up in turn number 1. One car is smoldering up in turns 1 and 2. Now 2 cars are spinning in the first and second turn. 2 cars breaking away. One of them nearly tags Richard Petty, who just barely got by. Caution is out.
Number 11. There's oil right down going into turn 1. Somebody else just had a moment then.
Waltrip's number 11 was one of the first to go. Car number 8, I believe, is the one that blew an engine out there. Bobby Hillen Jr., the track rock car from Midland, Texas. Looks looks like it lost an engine. Number 11 was involved, and I think you may see car number 2.
Yeah, I think car 2 was involved. That would be Rusty Wallace. Waltrip has his trying to get his car righted. He's just trying to get out of that mud now so that he'll stay in the lead lap. But he's having now, he's got it on the pavement. Remember at Michigan a few weeks ago when Harry Gant spun into the infield, it had rain the night before. Somebody alluded to that. If you get down on that grass, you're going to be in trouble. But Waltrip managed to get his out.
Well, that, as they came to the line then, it was an incredible effort by Dale Earnhardt, too.
Here's Bobby Hillin coming in, the man who we think first blew the engine that has created the first caution of the day. This happening in the 16th lap. Hillin now coming on pit road. And let's look in replay as to what developed up here in the first and second turn.
You can see the smoke from Hillen's car as it goes into turn 1. First of all, the cars behind him were blinded, and then the oil, there's Waltrip spinning around in the car number 11 after he got into the oil.
Petty, he just
now that is close. There's
Rusty Wallace in the car number 2 down on the inside.
That's Ellis behind Petty. That's as close a call as you can have and still call it race time afterward.
And also involved in that, just in front of Richard Petty, was Benny Parsons, who also just squeaked by right on the wall.
But you didn't see the first victim there, which was the Hillin car. It started to smolder going down into turn number 1. Then it erupted and it laid down a trail of oil, and whoever came directly behind him was in a trap with no place to go.
And everybody's choosing this moment to make their first pit stop. And that all changed tires, and maybe Chris and Mike will be able to find out for us just how the tire wear is looking.
Whoop. Here's Harry Gant's vantage point. This is the view that he had. That was Harry Gant scooting through those cars on the inside and getting into the back straightaway with all that smoke still directly in front of him. Literally driving blind at 200 miles per hour here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. Here's Chris Economac.
Well, we're Darrell Waltrip's pit, where the old Armstrong method of repair is being used. The left rear corner of the car is damaged. The left rear tire is flat. It's a tough break for Waltrip because it appears as though he may lose a lap. You can see the wheel mark just under the fuel filler where the wheel from the other car touched him. He's racing the engine. I don't think the car is disturbed mechanically, but aerodynamically it may be hurting. There he goes. Quick work by the Junior Johnson crew. Back to you, Ken.
All right, here's another look. And this is still a bit after the fact. You can see Waltrip getting collected there with Rusty Wallace's car. There's the Schrader car getting by. Richard Petty, it almost looked like it creased him. And I believe that's Tommy Ellis directly behind.
That was so close. And who's that down at the bottom of the picture there?
That's the Rusty Wallace car number 2. Now here comes another car way down on the inside.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The one right on the bottom there.
Maybe car number 22, Bobby Allison's car, was way down in there at that time.
I don't think Darrell Waltrip lost a lap there, and he's one right now that is glad there's no tire rule here today because he was able to change all 4 tires.
Here's Mike Joy.
They'll change right-side tires on Jeff Bodine's Chevrolet. He said at the start of the show he'd be the fastest in the GM class, and so far, that's proven out. No, with no tire rule here, Harry Hyde instructs them all the way around and a 4-tire change. They'll look at how these tires are wearing and, more importantly, what the tire temperatures are and get an idea of how the first several laps of this race under green have gone for them. Now, just in front of Bodine is Mike Sack's car, and Sack's right rear caught a bit of that incident down at turn number 1. So they're taking a look at that. Apparently, it is just cosmetic damage, and they'll send Sacks away. Back to Chris.
Rusty Wallace is in. They're heading that more body work being done. The man is hitting a fender with his fist to make room for the wheel there. You can see the marks on the fender. There's been some close going here as the left front wheel goes on, jack down, and away Rusty goes. Rather slowly, may having clutch trouble. Boy, oh boy, I tell you, this driver's hand here, this pit man's hand. Let's try and have a word with him here. What were you using your hand for?
Take the fender out.
How's your hand feel?
All right.
Okay, these are tough men down here in the pits. Let's go down pit road now to Mike Joy.
We're with Harry Hyde, and he's taking a look at the tires that have just come off Jeff Bodine's car, checking for wear, checking for pressure. These tires may go back on the car later on in the day. Harry, what do you learn from this set of tires that you just took off the car? What have you learned from them?
Tire wear is real good, and we're checking the buildup in the pressure right now. But the front tire and the rear tires wearing exactly the same, just telling us that our set of stuff is working real good.
Is it a big help to you that you can change all the tires under the caution without penalty?
Oh, on this racetrack, yeah. Nobody wants to gamble with a tire on this racetrack.
More on tires from Chris Economaki.
Okay, this is the tire they took off of Rusty Wallace's car. You can see the flat spot here where he spun and the rend in the tread over here. These tires are very thin. The thinner they are, the more they dissipate the heat. So as a consequence, the tires, when they spin, wear very through. So they have to change the tire as soon as something like this happened. And that pit crew did a great job. So it's now down pit road back to Mike Joy.
And it's left side tires for Harry Gant on the Bandit. Apparently the computer may have told them something about the set they just put on that car. And they put new left sides on for Harry. He goes back out, and Travis Carter will have a look at the tires that just came off this car.
Yeah, we see Greg Sachs' car being body worked on.
And here you are in Harry Gant's automobile. And there's a crack developing in the windshield of Gant's car. Let's see if we can talk to Harry Gant. Harry Gant, Ken Squire, do you read me? Hello, Harry. Hello, Harry Gant. Harry, come in. He can hear us, but apparently that signal's not coming back to us from Harry Gant's car right now. Hello? Hello, Harry? Harry Gant?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear, Ken.
Okay. What about that crack in the windshield? Do you know where it came from?
No, it's just off of small pieces of gravel and things flying off the racetrack.
You don't have to come in and change that windshield?
No, it'll be okay. It's not going to break out, I don't think.
Okay. You looked like you were going through a minefield out there up in turns 1 and 2, Harry.
Yeah, there's a lot of debris out there when they blew the engine out, so hopefully got it cleared up okay.
There was a lot of spinning and a lot of smoke. I thought that as much of a concern as those cars at the bottom of the racetrack were what might develop coming out of turn 2 in that melee.
Yeah, I was too. I was concerned about the cars at the bottom. I didn't know who all to expect to be spinning around. And it's awful muddy down low, and on that grass, you can't tell where your car's going to go.
Harry, this is Ned Jarrett. We saw on your computer there that one time when you were in the draft, you got up as high as 209 miles an hour on the straightaway. Did you realize you were running that fast?
Come back.
I said, did you realize you were running 209 on the straightaway? I guess he's having a little trouble hearing us here now.
He may be in a state of shock.
Yeah, right.
It might be. I believe I would be. 21 laps have been completed. Darrell Waltrip, the 6th-place finisher a year ago, is a lap down. Up in turn 1, they are still laying down some speedy dry chemical being put on the track in an effort to dry up. The oil dropped when Bobby Hillen's car erupted and created this small calamity.
I think his engine must have blown an oil line or something, because he drove into the pits at quite a fair old lick, but it was smoking heavily. I think he's probably blown a line or blown a filter or something. But then somebody else laid smoke down at turns 1 and 2. So that
Sterling Marlin, his car has been smoking. Car number 95 was having such a good run there. He was in front of Terry Labonte and some of the others. There's the car number 2 of Rusty Wallace, who was the last year's Rookie of the Year on the NASCAR circuit.
Usually we only get 8 or 9 car rundowns here when they come up, because they come up so quickly and there's so much action, but they've supplied us with another overall rundown, and here's where we are. We'll come to that after we pause for this commercial message. We'll pause for these words and then be back with more of the story of the Talladega 500, where Trevor Boyce for the moment has the lead. After the caution period and all of the major players here coming out of pit road, Canada's Trevor Boyce has the lead. 22 laps have been completed. They come around to complete 23. Phil Parsons, younger brother of Benny Parsons, is lying in the 2nd position. A.J. Foyt is in 3rd. The man to watch here is number 11. Remember, Waltrip is the lap down. He and Sterling Marlin, number 95, will definitely lock up to take off and try to get their lap back right here.
Again, we mentioned that there had been smoke coming from the car number 95 of Sterling Marlin. He went into the garage area. They apparently have fixed it. He's back out now. You can see at least 1 lap down.
Running in the 4th position as they come to the line is Kaylee Yarborough, and in 5th is Dale Earnhardt with 6th, Buddy Baker. We're back under green. We'll give you an overall rundown here a little later of the cars out here in the race. Field breaking away on the start. First caution of the day. Going back under green in the 23rd lap.
Phil Parsons taking the lead.
Yeah, but A.J. Foyt is coming in a hurry. was hoping to get in front of those cars. Some of those others are going to be much harder to pass than Trevor Roy's would have been.
That's his only way of getting a lead back, a lap back.
You're watching it live here on CBS. The $450,000 Talladega 500 field coming around to complete lap number 24 this time by. And the leader is Supertex, A.J. Boyd. Oh, trouble. It is Kyle Petty's number 7. It sounded like it blew a tire. It's spinning all the way to
number 44 also down on the inside.
It sounded like a 105 howitzer blasting directly in front of us.
Right here is the mark. You see it, that dark black line right under the...
That's Terry Labonte's car. You see the hood pushed up in front, the deck lid up on the rear.
They're racing back to the line now. They'll come all the way back around.
This is where Darrell Waltrip just... no, he won't, because Cale Yarbrough's got a huge lead.
This is where Darrell Waltrip had that calamity at Daytona a few years ago. Remember, racing back to the line.
And Darrell would like to have been in front here now. It would have been a good opportunity to get his lap back. But there he is. He's on the inside, but he's got a lot of cars to pass before he can get back here.
Here they come for the line, and Cale Yarborough will come across the leader. A.J. Boyd in second. It'll be Bill Elliott third, Buddy Baker in fourth. You're inside Kyle Petty's car. That car lifted and floated for about 300 feet with not a tire seemingly on the ground.
Just before it hit the mud, and then you can see what it did when it went into the mud. There's Kyle in a bit of a hurry to get out, because he knows he's right down there in turn 1.
I think he thinks he can still get it going.
Yeah, I think he does. He's wanting to get him back to the pit area to check this thing over, because he doesn't know how much damage is done on the outside. And he is really excited and wanting to get the thing to move.
He's motioning to the people around the car to give him a push, get him started. That car lifted and spun in the air. A caution coming just after they got started, and he wants to get back into it.
Tremendous explosion as the car went by in the front here.
I think a couple of cars got together, and the tire blew once they got sideways, or somebody locked their brakes or something, and then a tire blew, and that was the sounds that we were hearing.
There's certainly a lot of black rubber down here on the road.
Let's see if we can see what happened as they came down. Remember, the start-finish line is not in the tri-oval, but considerably further along. Watch the blue car on the bottom of the screen.
Okay, it looks like he tried to come in just a little bit, not knowing perhaps. There he clips Labonte. Labonte was down on the inside. That was Kyle coming from the high side of the racetrack, perhaps not knowing that that car was behind him. Labonte goes to the outside, slams into the wall. Kyle Petty, you see the rear of the car lifting up, as Ken Squire mentioned, down on the grass area now. And here's Labonte coming all the way back across the track in front of everybody else.
Leading an incredibly charmed life. Went from the middle of the track up to the wall, just tagged the wall, then comes back across, and still nobody nailed it.
Right in the middle of the pack. It's amazing.
Boy, oh boy.
And right back into the car that hit him to start all of that.
1,000 feet earlier.
Yeah. Who was that car that Kyle Petty just tagged there?
Terry Labonte is all right. Terry Labonte going for a checkup. He is okay, but he took a lick on that outside wall.
I couldn't tell. It looked a little like Benny Parsons.
That's what I thought of that dark black car of Benny Parsons. Yeah, he tried to cut in front of it and just misjudged it and nailed the front of Benny's car as he cut down.
Boy, second caution of the day. Field is working the 27th lap at this time. Kyle Petty still in his car and trying to get it fired up. It lies in the bottom of the track. The Dale Inman prepared number 44 car taking a terrible beating as it collected the outside wall.
Well, last year, Terry Labonte won the Grand National Championship, having a very good year. He has run very well this year, Ken, but he's had more problems this year than in the past. It's amazing at how the next year after winning the championship sort of seems to go downhill for you.
It happened that way with Bobby Allison.
Sure did.
I know the feeling myself. But there's old Kyle's car not looking too good at the windscreen there. I think he's still trying to get somebody to help him get going. But
well, the car has been, I think, ravaged more than he believes it has been.
Yeah, I think it's definitely in the used car situation at the moment.
You could see the machine lift up, and you could see in the replay that the front end was down, but it sure got up high enough to give your heart an extra beat.
Off the floor, I think.
Now, here it is again. Now, look on the outside of your screen. See Kyle Petty just nosing down. Apparently got caught on that black car, which
I believe that's the car number 18 of Tommy Ellis.
Tommy Ellis.
There is damage on Ellis's right front wheel, the fender out there right now.
Labonte weaves his way up to the top, hits the wall, and weaves his way down to the bottom.
not only he, David, but several others were living charmed lives there as well.
Yeah, well, they ever. Gosh almighty, as they say down.
And they meet again. Kyle Petty, Terry Labonte. Kyle is out of his car. He very much wanted to keep going. He's
speaking Italian now, I think.
I think he felt he had a real chance at winning this race today, perhaps as good a chance as any race that he's been in. He finished second, past Cale Yarborough on the last lap here as the race had made. That boosted his confidence. He said, hey, boy, I can do it. I've seen Cale Yarborough do it so many times. Then he came back and passed Cale on the last lap to take second place behind Bill Elliott. And his confidence was really high, but now it's down the drain.
He was trying to get a crew, trying to get someone to help him there, do something to improve on his best finish, which had been 7th. He had a couple of 9ths here earlier. I'm wondering if we can get anything from what was going on down there. He really wanted to get back into this race, not to be.
I think he'll find when the car's brought back to pits, there wouldn't have been any good getting out of the mud anyway.
David, you can sit around in the cockpit and everything looks okay.
Yeah.
You walk outside.
The wheels are hanging off.
Yeah. You know, Richard Petty laid down some advice for Kyle years ago, and this is the difference between the Pettys and so many other people. Kyle at one time said something Daddy always told me. He said, if you run head-on into the wall, your job is ended for the day. But there's somebody standing there with a pad and a pen whose job is just beginning, and you've got to let him finish his job before you can leave the racetrack.
That's good advice, and Richard Petty has always done that.
Yep. Yeah, as hard as, and it's going to be very, very hard for Kyle Petty to get himself back together and face the press now and talk about this. Clyde Bolton came across that in the Birmingham paper the other day.
Good advice.
Pretty much the story
Very
of the Pettys, why they have been so successful and so popular.
Popular, definitely, and that's one of the reasons.
Car number 44, Terry Labonte's car. Great sadness there. They worked hard and thought they had a chance, perhaps first in class in the GMC class, as they said, but really they always in the depths of their heart think they're going to be able to come home and do it on a race like this, and particularly where you can draft all day long. We'll return with more live flag-to-flag coverage of the Talladega 500 after this word from your local station.
Special, the 1985 Talladega 500 is sponsored by AC Delco, the Smart Parts.
We're back with you once again at the Alabama International Motor Speedway, Talladega, Alabama. 29 laps have been completed. The second caution of the day came in dramatic form with a crash that eliminated Terry Labonte and Kyle Petty. There you see the standings. Cale Yarborough up in front. A.J. Foyt maintaining the second position for the moment. Bill Elliott relegated to third spot. There's Kyle Petty's car back to the garage area. On the hook.
And Ken, we see the windshield, of course, was cracked and bursted in that accident. We have a report that there's some windshield damage on the car number 43 of Richard Petty and the car number 15 of Ricky Rudd.
Coming up later today, the Greater Hartford Open finals this afternoon here on CBS. Let's take a look at that leaderboard right now. Raymond Floyd right up in there with Grady. You'll see it this afternoon. That's on CBS following our Talladega 500 coverage.
We saw Bobby Hillen's car number 8 there a moment ago as we see Labonte's car being hooked up to the record. Hillen's, of course, caused the first caution when he blew a lot of smoke going into turn 1, and as David Hobbs pointed out, apparently it was an oil line or a filter or something because they've repaired it. The engine certainly didn't blow on that thing, and he's back in there now.
Let's review. In fact, as a result of all this other caution, he in fact only lost about 5 laps.
Let's review further down in the field now. After Baker in 4th, Parsons in 5th, Dale Earnhardt is 6th, Tommy Ellis is in 7th, Joe Rutland is in 8th, Tim Richmond is 9th, Neil Bonnet lies 10th, 11th is Benny Parsons, 12th is Ron Bouchard, 13th is Lake Speed, 14th is Harry Gant, 15th Bobby Allison, 16th David Marcus, 17th is Rusty Wallace, 18th is Rick Wilson, 19th is Bo Dye. Let's go to the pits for this report.
Well, I'm in Terry Labonte's pit. His car is not yet brought into the pits, and his pit is half empty. These fellows work like circus workers. Get ready for the next show. This was full of wheels, tires, jacks, equipment, gas bottles, and so forth. Several loads of equipage has been taken out. They're sealing off the gas tanks here. In another 5 minutes, this will be all empty, with this crew having gone back to the garage and hope for better luck next time out. Now let's go down pit road to Mike Joy.
Well, you have a look at a very mud-spattered Kyle Petty and his race car. The evidence of initial contact is on the left rear. And you can see that despite the mud way up the tailpipes, the smashed-in bumper, they're going to do everything they can to try to get this car back in the race. Kyle perhaps taking some of his frustration out on the race car and slipping and sliding along in the mud here. We'll try to intercept him around the front of the car and get a word. They're going to put jacks into this car, and they are going to try to get it fixed. As you can see, it's frantic down here right now. Let's come back in a bit, and we'll try to get word with Kyle Petty.
I believe the question here would be, did he cut down or did he get turned in by Tommy Ellis in the car 18 that was behind him there?
He possibly could have gotten nipped just a little bit. They were running so close together. They were running 3 abreast when they went into that, or coming out of the trial. We'll look at it again and see if we can pick it up just exactly what did happen. Certainly we don't lay any blame where it's not. See Kyle Petty's car, they're 3 abreast there. His is on the outside. Tommy Ellis in the center. It looks like Tommy does. Yes, he goes up just a little bit and flips Kyle. Turn Kyle right down into Terry Labonte.
It could be, of course, that the air from Terry Labonte's car pushed him up.
Yes.
Again, talking to Bo Dine this morning, he was saying that the Chevrolet's on this real high-speed track. He said if someone comes up alongside you, the wall of air they push in front can just move the car sideways on you very smartly, and he certainly did go up into Kyle.
Yeah, and certainly he would not have just driven up in.
No, I'm sure he would.
For certain, there was nothing intentional there. Let's go back to Mike Joy.
Kyle Petty is right here talking with a member of Terry Labonte's crew. As you look at the right front of that car being worked on, talking with Bob Labonte, Terry's dad, about what happened.
Turned me down into the inside into everybody else, and then Terry and them, naturally I spun in front of Terry and all of them. They didn't have no place to go. But he clipped me in the left rear. Look at his car out there. It's so crap.
Now your car and you are a mess.
It's a little muddy down there. We come through the trial over here on that last restart. We're trying to catch up with some people to get back in the late draft there. And when I came past a bunch of them on the outside, past 3 or 4 on the outside, and Tommy Ellis came up and clipped me in the left rear. I was up past him like that, and he clipped me on the left rear and turned me back down into the middle of the pack. So.
Well, the replay showed that pretty clearly. What do you think the chances are of getting this car back in the race?
Pretty good, I hope. We're going to work on it track there.
And he's on the way to do just that. Ken?
They're saying that cars numbers 43 and 15 have windshield damage.
All right.
And you see the action continuing down here, and it's pretty fervent activity that's going on the garage side of the track for Kyle Petty as he gets ready to go.
Well, Ken, he's in 7th place in the point standings right now, and certainly he wants to stay in there because he's still not out of contention as far as winning the championship.
Mud.
Good, right.
Everywhere. Windshield cracks on Richard Petty and on Ricky Rudd's car. Getting set for a restart. They'll have green this time by. When they come by, they'll have completed 32 of the 188 laps to be run today.
And it's coincidental that the fellow that he wrecked with or took out with him there, Terry Labonte, was in 6th place in the point standings. There's no chance that Labonte will get his car back in there with the damage that was done to it. So if Kyle can get back in there, possibly he could move up to 6th place in the point standings.
Oh, there's the sadness. Terry Labonte's number 44.
Had to haul it back in on a truck.
Nose down on the ground.
Terry Labonte's car. He gave the wall right under this commentary booth here a pretty healthy clip.
And that was the explosion with that tire blowing and then the back end disappearing about the same moment. We're back for a green flag and resumption of the Talladega 500 live here on CBS this afternoon. Later today, the Greater Hartford Open on CBS. Cale Yarborough is in front. A.J. Foyt is in second. Then the lap car of Darrell Waltrip. And down on the inside, Bill Elliott circulating, trying to move his way back up through. There you see those 2 leaders trying to draw away A.J. Foyt in the Olds, running right behind the Ford of Cale Yarborough in the back straightaway. Bill Elliott now around in 3rd. Sterling Marlin lies 4th, but not for long. Buddy Baker's going for 5th. There you see Baker, the white car down on the inside. He's challenged as they go to turn number 3. And look at Elliott overwhelm those leaders. Here he comes to the inside. Elliott, who dropped 15 car lengths back, goes by. Supertex, A.J. Foyt goes after Cale Yarborough as they come to the tri-oval. Yarborough down low. Elliott looking for running room. Up into 4th comes Buddy Baker into 5th.
going to just try to push him down into that third turn. But Bill Elliott showed the strength, Ken, that he has shown all year long in winning those 8 races. It didn't take any effort. It didn't look like for him to blow by A.J. Foyt, but here's Buddy Baker now and Dale Earnhardt moving down on the inside of A.J. Foyt, pushing him back to the 5th position.
Last lap at 200-mile-an-hour average. Caution is out of the track. Caution is out. There is a yellow flag out as they come to the line. And as they race to the line, it'll be Cale first. In second, Elliott. Third is Baker. Dal McCowart's car running very slowly. Bottom of the racetrack. That 200-mile-an-hour lap we had was on Cale Yarborough's car, number 28. The Rainier Lundy team. Waddell Wilson, the crew chief. Dal McCowart's number 0 now coming in trouble. And there's the third caution of the day. We're not going to see any fastest 500s in this one. Dal McCowart out of Savannah, Georgia.
This is the first time that he has raced since the Daytona 500. He just simply missed making the field at Charlotte and for the firecracker race at Daytona on July the 4th. And he told me in the garage area the other day after he qualified, he said, I had to loosen that thing up so much to get the speed out of it, but I was so determined to make this field, and he did it over 195 miles an hour. I said, how did it feel? He said, I was scared to death. I said, now, most race drivers wouldn't tell you that they're scared. He said, I could have said apprehensive. He said, I could have used a whole lot of words. He said, the plain fact is, I was scared to death.
I think this track is the kind of one that would get your attention. Anyone's
sure
attention.
Does, yeah, I'm sure it at those sort of speeds. Look at those cars pouring into pit lane there.
Dad, your victories, those 50 wins that you had in Grand National Racing, many of them were on the short tracks. Did you really like to run? I can remember one of my first experiences at Daytona was watching you come out of turn 4 backwards one time for about 1,000 feet. Let's go to Chris Economac.
Ricky Rudd is in the pits, and you can see the back windshield. That didn't take long. It was a splash of water. The hole in the lower right front corner of the windshield has been patched up with tape. Crew Chief Bud Moore says it's not going to be a problem, and that was a lightning-fast pit stop. Up down pit road now to Mike Joy.
Chris, I'm back in the garage area in the Billy Hagan Walterwood Racing Team truck with Terry Labonte. First off, you're okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
But the race car is not. What seemed to happen up there?
Well, I really don't know. I was going down through the driveway, and I guess a couple of guys got together on the outside of me, and one of them came across and hit me in the quarter panel and just turned me into the wall.
When that starts to happen, how much control do you have over the race car at 200 miles an hour?
None. You just hang on from there on. You know, there's really nothing you can do.
But on to another day and another racetrack.
Yeah, I guess so. You know, a few weeks ago we said, I don't guess it'll get much worse than this, but it has. So.
But it did today. Up above us in this truck is a spare race car. They can't trot it out for this race, but they bring it along next time or on to the next racetrack. Terry Labonte's car owner is Billy Hagan. What happens when you get a case of accelerated depreciation like that one? It's got to be tough on a race team.
Well, you just go look at it and turn around and walk off.
Now, you've driven yourself on the high bank tracks like Daytona and Camel GT competition, but a shot like that is something, are you glad that there's somebody else there to take it, or is it just a tough thing to look at and have to go down the road?
Well, it's just tough to take it. You know, it's one thing when there's an accident and there's something that you've done that might have brought the accident home, but to be involved in what it takes the car out and absolutely no fault of yours, it makes it a little hard to take sometimes.
Well, the best news is that Terry is okay, but what did that little altercation cost you up there?
Well, it could even wind up costing the championship because we're going to lose a lot more places. So if we lose the championship this year by 40 points, 50 points, we can say that we lost it at Talladega.
Not to mention about $60,000 worth of race car total up there in turn number 2. Ken?
A bad day for the Billy Hagan team and Terry Labonte, the defending Grand National Champion. We'll be back with more live coverage of the Talladega 500 after these short messages. For those who fall by the wayside today, there's always the next one, and the next one will be Sunday, August 11th on the NASCAR Grand National Tour on the 2-mile track at Brooklyn, Michigan 400. Then it's on to Bristol, Tennessee. And on that very steeply banked track, they have some great Grand National races. And, of course, September 1st is one of the most famous stock car races on the entire circuit. The Southern 500 at Darlington, South Carolina. The entire season comes to conclusion November 17th out in California, the Winston Western 500 in Riverside.
And September the 1st will mean a tremendous amount, of course, to Bill Elliott, because that's his last chance to win that incredible $1 million bonus for winning the winning 3 of 4. Winning 3 of 4, and he's already won 2 of them.
Let's take a look at the attrition thus far in the race. You see Ruttman, Davey Allison up into second. Wow, is he having a good run in his first Grand National event. These are the cars now out of this Talladega 500 with 37 laps complete. Connie Saylor, Jimmy Means, Terry Labonte's car is out. Kyle Petty's is a little iffy. We may see that car back. Grant Adcox is out, and Dal McCoward has retired as well. Third, you're getting set on a restart. Pace car is coming in. When they come by this time, there will be 38 laps complete. We had 4 cautions today. 4 caution periods thus far in the race. As they break for the line, Joe Ruttman, who hasn't had much luck here at all except bad, his best finish 11th, is out in front. And Davey Allison, in that black, white, and red car, Richard Petty right behind him, is running in second. There's Davey trying to move through. Davey Allison behind the lap car, coming down off the corner. That's Bobby Hillen, and it was just an oil line on car number 8. He dumped all that oil. He didn't lose the motor. He's back out there.
Here's Richard Petty trying to move on the inside of young Davey Allison to take over the number 2 position.
Davey Allison has been doing a lot of racing for the Automobile Racing Club of America, ARCA. Their race yesterday was dropped because of rain, as was round 3 of the International Racing Champions. There will be no round 3. The final round on August the 10th at the Michigan Speedway will conclude it this year. CBS will be there for that event.
An exciting development at the moment, which obviously we can't all see, is the fact that Cale Yarborough is running in about 27th spot at the moment on this restart, and I expect to see some fireworks from him as he pulls up through the field.
Just past Tommy Ellis and moved up through. Still, Joe Ruttman out in front. Several years ago at Daytona, put on a marvelous race. Great race driver. Now here's Bodine closing in on Harry Gant. Jeff Bodine giving it a shot this afternoon. Here he is up on the inside of Gant.
Makes it look so easy on Ricky Rudd. It does, doesn't it? It all looks so slow and in control. That little light bouncing there in the car. I mean, it's absolutely murderous in there.
Last lap at 197 miles per hour. Leaders coming by. And moving his way up to challenge for the lead comes Earnhardt. Ruttman is in first. Earnhardt is in second. They scoot down to the back straightaway.
Earnhardt's been running incredibly strongly all afternoon.
Here's Bodine moving by Gant's camera and around Bobby Hillen, trying to close up on Petty now.
He's got some heavy traffic there, Ken, to contend with.
40 laps are complete. 40 down.
Now Bodine's going to make it 3 wide. He's moved on the inside of Petty, but Petty moves to the outside and lets him go down on the inside.
Bodine on the bottom of the racetrack with Baker, clearing 2 more automobiles as he fights his way up through the field.
Car snaking there as he goes into that turn.
There's Tim Richmond getting into the picture now.
Also just passed Harry Gant.
So as they come by, new front-running car. There's the speed. Front-running car is now Earnhardt in number 3. Earnhardt out in front. Elliott. He's ready to mix it up with the leaders once again. There you see Bill Elliott closing. Ruttman is right there. Back straightaway. Here comes Elliott going back for the lead, side by side with Dale Earnhardt.
Bringing Neil Bonnet right with him.
And Bonnet in that lead lap into second. There's number 90, Schrader on pit road. Schrader on pit road. Leaders are back in turns 3 and 4. Elliott is first. As they swap positions and dice down out of turn number 4. It is Neil Bonnet into second place. Ruttman lies third. Earnhardt is in fourth. In the 5th position is Greg Sachs, number 77.
The winner of the Daytona 500 in July. Oh,
Bonnet in trouble for just a moment, and Joe Ruttman scoots down the inside.
Boy, oh, sweet. In the middle of that pack, right up to the outside wall there.
Third place car lies Earnhardt, and look at Elliott trying to draw away. Working the 43rd lap.
And there's action on the back straight. Smoke, heavy smoke.
No caution coming out. Bobby Hillen in trouble once again. Bobby Hillen in trouble down to the bottom of the track. Leaders coming by to complete 43 laps this time. It'll be Elliott first, Ruttman second, Earnhardt third, Bonnet fourth, Sachs fifth. Then comes Waltrip, still a lap down.
Waltrip, of course, desperate to get to the front of this bunch because he's got no chance of getting his lap back unless he's actually in front of the field when the caution flag is thrown.
And he's had two opportunities, David, to do that earlier. Cars coming out not long after a restart. He simply couldn't get up there and pass the lead.
He just doesn't have the steam to get there today, by the look of it.
There's Greg Sachs in the number 77 car, right there with Neil Bonnet.
Hanging on to Neil Bonnet well, and Greg Sachs has done incredibly well. He's pulled up from 30th starting position.
As they ramble by, another time out of the trioval. With Elliott first, Ruttman second, Earnhardt third. They are not showing that 77 car up in the lead lap, and latest word we had was that 77 was in the lead lap. Very much so. We'll check that one out for you.
Whatever, he's certainly hanging in there, and Jeff Bodine now is beginning to come into the picture back there. He's being shown as the fifth-place car, but I believe he's gaining on the leaders.
And he's on his own at the moment, too. If he can get near that front bunch, well, he'll pick up the draft.
Scoring have been reporting 77 as in that lead lap.
Well, you know, he was in that first encounter when Darrell Waltrip lost his lap in that crash in the first turn, or the spin, we should say.
Peter coming by.
So he could have lost the lap then.
Elliott stays first. Earnhardt running a very interesting race, maintaining third. Bonnet about 15 car lengths back and forth, and now up on the outside, and Earnhardt starting to make a move as it looked like Ruttman put out a puff of smoke.
Yeah, Ruttman's car smoking quite badly from the left rear there.
You're back with Gantz, number 33. Is right here on the lead as Ruttman doing a surprising job with car number 4 this afternoon, stays right in the midst of it and goes after it as we complete 46 laps. Joe Ruttman, the T.G. Shepard Folgers car, crew chief Tony Glover, the Larry McClure on machine, stays right up here in the hunt. There's your front three.
I wonder if that smoke we saw was when he slipped a little bit. Maybe it was tire smoke.
Must have been, because it didn't show any sign of it that lap at all.
Let's go to Mike Joy.
Richard Petty's Pontiac took the restart in 5th place. He's now dropped to 17th, tail into the lead draft. Mike Beam, what's wrong?
When they had that first caution there, undoubtedly, whenever somebody hit him in the left rear wheel, we come in, we beat the sheet metal out, we went back out after we changed tires, and he says vibration somewhere. I don't know if he bent the housing or something, you know, maybe shock something. It's not driving good right now, and we're trying to hold on because maybe the draft went okay, but he can't hold on.
If the rear end housing is bent, is there anything you can do with that if it's bent?
No, we just got to hold on, you know. We experienced stuff like this all year, you know. It ain't nothing we can do, you know. I mean, it's just one of those years, and, you know, this was a short track car after we tore up our good car at Daytona Beach, and the crew worked, you know, like cats and dogs to get here, you know, and the car was not as good as a Speedway car, so we're just lucky we're here anyway.
Richard, 25 years to win a record 200 Grand National races, and he's spent over a year trying to win 201. Let's go up to the lighter side of pit road and Chris Economaki.
Well, here's a familiar name, all right, but not a familiar face. Are you really A.J. Foyt?
We're doing our hardest today, just trying to stay up the scale, and we're doing her so far there, Chris.
As you go. Here in A.J. Foyt's pit, Mike Nish, an aspiring young driver from Utah, spends his spare moments as a ventriloquist, and he has made this dummy, I guess is the right word, out of wood. Brought him to the pit, suited him up like A.J. Foyt. That was creating a lot of attention. What gave you the idea, Mike?
I used to do it a few years ago, and this seemed like the opportune time to do it. And we're having a good time with it.
Tell me something. How does the real A.J. react?
I love it, boys. I do love it.
Okay. A little lighthearted frivolity in pit. Back to you, Ken.
Thank you, Chris. 48 laps complete. Bill Elliott first, Joe Ruttman second, Dale Earnhardt maintaining that third position. Neil Bonnet is fourth, Greg Sachs running fifth, Bodine is sixth, Parson seventh, Jim Richmond eighth. More in a moment. From Dawsonville is just that, but so is Dale Earnhardt. He has moved back into second place, although he's had trouble finishing races of recent. He's running right up here with the leader now, Jared. We've got trouble, 00. That's the Barkdahl car. Phil Barkdahl spinning in the back straightaway line there, trying to get down to the bottom of the racetrack as they come hurtling by him at over 200 miles an hour. Caution is out around the track. Phil Barkdahl's number 20. Number 00, looping the Helen Ray Special Chevrolet and lies on the bottom of the racetrack. So the cautions continue today. This will be number 5. Fifth caution of the day. Phil Barkdahl tries to get it fired up and back underway after looping out of turn number 2.
Back to the flag. Here's Dale Earnhardt moving ahead of Bill Elliott to take the lead.
As they come under caution, it will be Earnhardt's to lead. Elliott in second, Rutland for third. Everybody else pretty well out of the throttle here.
There did a little smoke continue to come from the car number 4, Joe Rutland. Ken, this will give him an opportunity to come in during this caution period and get that checked out. The NASCAR officials were looking that car over, and perhaps we're going to bring him in under the green. So now you'll get to do it under caution.
David, the car that's been really flying has been Cale Yarborough back up to 9th spot. He was back there in 30th for a while, and he's really cutting through the traffic.
He just pulled his way through the field. He started to get a bit unglued when he came to people like Buddy Baker. Couldn't get by them quite so quick, but he did make very spectacular progress through the field.
Bill Elliott is trying to win his 9th Grand National race of the year in 17 starts, and so far has been right up there with the leaders all day, but on this particular time coming to caution, it was the story of Dale Earnhardt running to the flag. There's Phil Barkdahl, who's 00, lies in the back straightaway and has brought out the 5th caution of the day. Barkdahl out of Phoenix, Arizona. Emery Donaldson, a Floridian, is his crew chief.
Busy place on pit road.
Here's Mike Joy.
Joe Ruttman is in, and this caution flag was a real break for Ruttman's crew. Tony Glover's changing the right front tire, and that is the source of the smoke. They weren't sure if it was oil smoke or a tire rub, and now under caution they've got a good chance to find out. They're pulling away the fender, and they'll get Ruttman back out. Now to Chris Economaki.
All right, Kyle Yarborough has had the outside wheels changed. The inside wheels are just going on now, and more time was spent cleaning the windshield, actually, than changing the inside tires. So way to go. He really is hungry for his first win, Kyle Yarborough. It's the first year he's not scored a victory in many a moons, and he wants to win one before this season is out. Back to you, Ken.
A.J. Foyt pulling out. Barkdahl car. And it's brought out the 5th caution of the day. Still resting the back straightaway. And the activity is all here on pit road.
Boy, there is some activity down there.
Feeding time for the Elephants. Live here on CBS this afternoon, the 17th running of the Talladega 500. As these 3,700-pound beasts get a little refreshed and get ready for more of the exciting action, which always is this great racing classic. Talladega 500 from the pole. Dave Marcus, originally from Wisconsin, now is leading once again. Car number 71, his own creation, stays up in front. There you see number 21. That's the Pearson colors going behind the wall. Car number 21 with his new Ford gave it a good shot, and it rolls back through a puddle.
And he's following Benny Parsons' car being pushed back there, too. Is that right?
Attrition continuing to develop with 55 laps complete. The leaderboard looks as Marcus first, Vaughn in second, Jeff Bodine in third, Dale Earnhardt is in fourth, Bill Elliott lying fifth in the field, Cale Yarborough then sixth, in seventh is Greg Sachs, eighth is Phil Parsons, ninth is Blake Speed, 10th is Tim Richmond, and 11th is Buddy Baker, 12th is Gant, 13th A.J. Foyt, running 14th now, Davey Allison, and 15th, Richard Petty. There's Ricky Rudd on pit road in car number 15. Here's Mike Joy.
Well, Joe Ruttman was in the front 5 at the time of the caution. They pulled out the right front fender, but that didn't get rid of all the smoke coming out from car number 4. There is an oil leak, and crew chief Tony Glover is under the car trying to find the source of it as the rest of the crew adds more oil to the reservoir. Down pit road to Chris.
Well, I'm standing here alongside of Ricky Rudd, who is, can I say you're patiently waiting, Ricky?
Well, I don't really have too much choice at this time right now.
What's it like when you're waiting for a drive shaft? Because you're just sitting here wondering, and every time you hear the cars go by, you know you're another lap down.
Well, right now we know the race is gone. The only thing we can do now is go out. We've been running real good in the national standings and the point standings. So at this point, all we can do is go back out and just try to finish the race.
How'd the windshield get broken?
During that wreck, when Kyle Petty and Labonte all in spun, hit the wall, some parts came through the windshield. We had to patch it up.
Okay, Ricky Rudd, calm and a bit impatient, waiting for that drive shaft to be replaced on car 15. Back to you, Ken.
Ricky Rudd ducking shrapnel out there. There you see number 22 being brought in. That car was black flag, given a consultation flag for passing the pace car. And it's now on pit road, and there'll be an additional penalty, I'm sure, after this tire change is made.
The word that we get is that he'll be held up a lap that he apparently had gained when he passed the caution car, and they say they're going to penalize him. Of course, that one guy's wanting to push, but the NASCAR official standing right in front of him to hold him up until the designated time for him to go. Ken, Chris was talking to Ricky Rudd there about the drive shaft. That is somewhat of a common thing on a track like this where they run such a high gear in the rear end. It's awful easy when they drop that car down. The driver will have the engine revved up, you let the clutch out, and something's got to give when it hits the ground. Drive shaft is a common thing. Breaking an axle is another common thing that can happen on a track of this sort.
The Allison crew not particularly enthusiastic about that decision.
Got a little flat there on the right front of the Phil Barkdahl car.
Yeah, and the right rear.
Yeah. When it spun, it just simply wore through, as we saw earlier on the car that it spun. It really goes those tires down.
Here's Mike Joy.
Well, the Silver Fox, David Pearson, has been to victory lane in NASCAR racing more times than anyone, save Richard Petty, but today won't be one of those days. You brought a Ford here. You brought a Chevrolet all season and for the past couple of seasons. How'd the car work for you until it went out?
It worked real good. I was real happy with it. Of course, right off the bat, we busted the windshield and had to make a pit stop and change the windshield. Then as we went back out, we adjusted the chassis a little bit, and I was real happy with the way it was handling. And, of course, when we made the last pit stop, I went out and started putting it in the third gear, then the transmission was golded up on it.
Now, you've driven Haas Ellington Chevrolet all season. Where did you come up with a Ford on 2 days' notice to bring to Talladega?
Well, it was a little bit longer than 2 days now. It must have been a couple of weeks.
You had to be here 2 days after Pocono.
The car was, well, I already had the Ford and everything while I was at Pocono, so we had about 2 weeks to work on the car.
You've driven a Chevrolet here, you've driven a Ford here. Any question which is the better race car?
Well, sitting on the inside, you can't really tell that much difference in them, to tell you the truth. But I felt like we had this and where it was handled a little bit better than Chevrolet.
And sitting in the garage doesn't make much difference at all. Ken?
105 wins, 73 of them in Fords. There you see Allison still being held down here on pit road.
The word is, Ken, when the cars go by one more time, then he'll be permitted to go.
We'll return with more live flag-to-flag coverage of the Talladega 500 after this word from your local station. On the track as we approach another restart here in the Talladega 500 with Neil Bonnet leading here this afternoon. Now 58 laps complete. Kyle exiting pit road, coming up into the first turn area of the track. Dave Marcus is running 1 lap down. It had been reported earlier that he was the leader. That is incorrect, and it is number 12. Number 12, Bonnet in front. Bodine second, Earnhardt third, Elliott fourth, Yarborough fifth, Greg Sachs sixth, Parsons seventh, Speed eighth, Richmond ninth, Buddy Baker in 10th as we get set on a restart. Pace car is coming in. Set to race, Kyle Petty getting back into the action now. Marcus drops in behind the leader as he wants to try and make up a lap, and Neil Bonnet, who has said all week that we have been closing on Bill Elliott, now is in front of him. Bonnet, kitty winner, the Talladega 500, goes for the lead, and down to the bottom of the racetrack you see Jeff Bodine in the yellow and white car, and here comes Earnhardt moving in.
Earnhardt really made some ground to that turn there.
He had to put his brakes on, I believe, when he ran up on Bodine. He had so much speed. But
meanwhile, Elliott exploding down the bottom of the racetrack. Elliott thrusting that Ford right back into the lead another time by Bonnet. He took out 4 of them like saying good night.
Well, of course, he had the ideal draft because he had Cagliabra and that other Ford right behind him, helping him along.
He had all the other ingredients, too, besides the draft, some power under the hood.
He used old Cagliabra to help him get up there. Now look at Cagliabra back in 5th spot.
Elliott first, Bonnet second, Bodine third. Earnhardt
wherever he needs to go. The car just seems to respond.
Can he do it? Can he win his 9th race of the year? Unbelievable today. The man that might change it all is right there, Bodine to number 5. And just as important, number 3, Earnhardt. Look at Earnhardt coming up through on the bottom side. Richard Childress, number 3, looks good, David.
Earnhardt helped Jeff Bodine take that spot and then immediately took it right back off him. Cale Yarber still struggling to get around there. Neil Bonnet hanging on the number 12 car there. Cale Yarber decides to drop to the back of the group. No good staying out alongside too long, otherwise you just drop even further back.
Line 6 is Greg Sachs. Sachs is running with the front of the field. Front draft includes car number 77. Last lap at 47.4, 202 mile an hour average. You're watching it live here, the Talladega 500 17th annual, $450,000 at stake. And Bill Elliott tries to draw away just a tickle from car number 3 running that second spot. Further back.
In that second group is the guy we just saw sitting very patiently in the pits, Ricky Rudd, pulled out just before the green flag dropped. He's in that second big group, but a few laps down, many laps down.
Elliott, the leader, coming by to complete 62 this time. Now you're inside Bodine's car. We'll follow the leader from Jeff Bodine's car, and there goes car number 3 for the lead. And with him comes Bodine. Falling back is Elliott. Elliott falls out of the lead.
Not many times have we seen him pass this year, Tim.
2 Chevrolets lock up together in a draft and beat Bodine. Here comes, or rather beat Elliott, and now Elliott comes back another time. Elliott on the bottom, running wheel to wheel with those Chevys.
You guess he's playing with them a little bit?
Maybe.
At 202 miles an hour?
Look at Bodine work that steering wheel.
Jeff Bodine starting to pull back past him because he's got the draft of Dale Earnhardt in front of him. But to see Bill Elliott can hang on there just alongside him with no draft to help him.
Not many cars can do that. Stay down on the inside and stay with it.
Sam Moses, in his article in Sports Illustrated, talked about the fact that they can run that car so low on the track where the others may stay high all day and run 500 miles. He'll run the same distance and run 490.
Certainly, that's a short way around.
But it seems here they are, 3 wide, on parade, 200 miles an hour plus. Bodine down to the bottom. They pinch him a little there, and he steps out of it.
They're sort of working against him, aren't they?
You bet they are. Earnhardt for the moment in front. Bodine to the bottom for second. Elliott back to third. Boy, you talk like martial order here. They just lined them up and marched them like a squadron of soldiers around. It's better than 200 miles an hour. Bodine for the moment has the lead. Earnhardt wants this bad. He's won this race the last 2 years. Last year, what many declared was the best Talladega 500 in history. 10 cars in that lead lap of the finish. Here's Bodine out in front.
Dale Earnhardt right up on Jeff Bodine's back bump as they go down that back stretch at probably 209, 210 miles an hour.
That was fast.
Side. Will Bill Elliott go through with it?
Well, Earnhardt slipped right by and right up into the groove.
Here they are for the tri-oval. Down to the bottom of the racetrack. Notice that expanse on the outside. Plenty of room to move if you want to put it out there.
Not now.
Not now. Under the flagman and down into turn number 1. For Petty, who loves to move when he has it all working right. Just the wiggle in the back of that car. Just holds it under control as he goes down the back straightaway. And there's the train from outside.
There's Bill Elliott back in 5th spot as Cale Yarber tries to take away 2nd place from Jeff Bodine. Decides he can't do it, drops back in behind so he won't lose the draft. Bill Elliott back there in 4th spot.
Elliott back into 4th. Those Chevrolets would like to take a little gang technique, a little team action out here today.
They say that Elliott runs his car, what's the saying, loose, which lets him run free. And when he's out there running by himself, he's not pinching it down in the corners. But when he gets in traffic, that, it makes it a little bit unstable.
Yeah, if your car's loose in this sort of traffic with the air turbulence that's caused here.
Yeah, but that's not too unstable right there.
There's that bottom of the racetrack again on the string, as they wrote about. Right to the bottom of the racetrack, diving beneath those Chevrolets and Fords that are trying to counter that great attack that the Elliott brothers have put forth all year. Bill Elliott scooting down through and taking the lead. And there you see Dale Earnhardt second, and you're riding right now at over 200 miles per hour in our live coverage with Jeff Bodine, the New England driver, pulling up with one more time. Originally out of Chemung, New York. The fourth place car is Neil Bonnet. Here's a report from Mike Joy.
Benny Parsons is out of the race with drive shaft trouble. You've been out there running. Who's got the best chance to beat Bill Elliott today? Bodine, Earnhardt, Bonnet?
Well, I would think that Cale Yarborough does, but Cale is now running about 7th or 8th, and for some reason, he isn't going to the front. I really don't know why, Mike.
Which of those Chevrolets look strongest to you, having been out on the racetrack and run against them?
Well, I did not run with Earnhardt. I started back about 13th, and Earnhardt I didn't get a good start. Earnhardt went to the front. I basically went to the back, and I did not run with him, although he has been the leading Chevrolet most of the day, and he ran very well here in May, so I would say Dale Earnhardt probably.
You got Bill Elliott pretty much into the top rank of this sport. Hooked him up with his car owner, Harry Melling, and we all know what that's led to. Does he still come to you for a bit of advice, or are you going to him now?
No, I got to go to him, and you know what? He won't tell me a thing.
For more on the Elliots, Chris Economaki.
Well, the fact that Ricky Rudd's car broke a drive shaft and Benny Parsons is out of the race with drive shaft problem, it's no surprise that one of the Elliott crew members just ran back to the garage and brought a drive shaft back to put in the pit. We checked with crew chief Dan Elliott and asked him, how's your drive shaft? And he said, okay, I hope. Whether it's there as a precaution, because they feel they might need it, they're not saying. Back to you, Ken.
Thank you, Chris. That story with Benny Parsons, it was Parsons who went to Harry Melling and said, Harry, I think we've found a driver that needs some help that could really become something sometime. And sure enough, after just a $500 sponsorship for the first time out, look what they've become. This dominant team in American racing. Elliott leading. This time by 191 miles down, 116 laps to go. 1 7/10 of a second has been separating the front 11 cars. Elliott first, Earnhardt second, Bodine maintaining third, Bonnet fourth, Cale Yarborough fifth, Richmond sixth, Parsons seventh, Buddy Baker eighth, Bob Bouchard ninth, Greg Sachs in 10th, up to that lead lap. Fight continues. And now you see Cale Yarborough challenging Jeff Bodine for third spot. The orange and white Ford moves up on the yellow, brown, and white Chevrolet, driven by Jeff Bodine. Back straightaway.
Well, we hear a lot from Chevrolet about the dominance of Ford, and obviously the Ford, there we see Cale Yarborough in his Ford just passing the Chevrolet of Jeff Bodine, or trying to. Didn't work that time. Drops back behind, not to lose the draft. There lurking in the background behind him is Joe Ruffman.
Tim Richmond, I believe.
Tim Richmond, I mean, yeah, right. As they go into the trioval, just right under the commentary box here.
Buddy Baker, who moved up into 8th, maybe being black flagged. I see a consultation flag out, and I think they put Baker's number up.
The rear bumper on his car, Ken, is hanging out quite a bit on the right rear. Apparently, he's been in some little altercation out there with somebody, got a little too close.
9th, then, is Bouchard, and 10th, reporting as Sachs. Our 11th now is A.J. Foyt. 12th is Terry Gant. 13th is Richard Petty. And going 14th is Davey Allison there.
Doing a very good job in his first ever NASCAR Grand National race. Here's Cale Yarborough trying to make a move, but boy, that didn't work out there at all.
Did it? He suddenly really shot backwards there.
He just simply had to back out of that position. That's all there was to it.
Back they come, tri-oval, still another time. 74 laps complete this time by Bill Elliott in front. Dominating, holding on. But the Chevrolet, they've been talking all week, they've been trying to close it up, are doing just that. Here's Baker in. You can see the bumper, right rear, pulled away. Here's Chris Economaki.
Okay, we're down here in the pit. They're going to take the advantage of this pit stop to change the right side tires, and there the men are taking the bumper off. I don't think this meets the federal 5-mile-an-hour specifications, the way they're bending this bumper back and forth, but the officials are letting him go that way. And apparently the official looked at it and said it's not an unsafe condition, so they're letting him go back on the track. Back to you, Ken.
It's probably tagged on pretty solidly. So
probably so, but he's going to lose a lap, Ken. The leaders are coming down. As Buddy Baker goes out of the pit, the leaders are coming down on him. They have their speed up. They'll about catch him in turn 1.
There's Elliott first. That white car down to the bottom of the track. That is Baker. There you see Cale Yarborough now in third. Cale finally was able to find a way to squirm by Jeff Bodine. There's Sachs, has been running up the front 10 this afternoon. Greg Sachs locks up the brakes, throws it. Chevrolet number 77.
This is an unscheduled pit stop for him. At one time, we were told that he was a lap down, but he was not. There was one crew member reaching inside, making a chassis adjustment while we finished changing those tires. He gets that service, but he, too, will have to fight to keep himself from going a lap down.
Apparently, he will go a lap down as well.
Yeah, he sure will, because they just come in to overtake him now.
Tim Richmond has climbed into fourth. Here's 77 coming up.
Richmond, we have not heard that much of him today, Ken. He's beginning to flex his muscles a little bit. He came down here last week and did some testing. In fact, they tested the Chevrolet that Bobby Allison is running here today against the Pontiac that Richmond is driving. They chose the Pontiac, which they've been running all year long, but we're very pleased with the way the car ran. They qualified good, and now he's right up there in the sixth of that.
Sure is. And right behind him comes Phil Parsons, having a very good day. Phil Parsons, number 66, is riding up there with the front crew.
Certainly having a better day than one of his previous days here at this racetrack when he had a horrific accident here at this Speedway.
Here is Earnhardt closing on Elliott. He pulls all the way up on him. Earnhardt closing right in tight. As they come to the tri-oval, he's going to make a shot on the outside. Enthusiastic crowd. Tremendous for the amount of rain we've had. We ought to make some way diminish the folks coming today, but not the case. It is packed. Grandstand looks like it's totally sold out all the way around this Alabama Speedway, the main straightaway. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Well, here's the reason for Greg Saxon's scheduled pit stop. You see how little rubber there is on these tires to start with, and there's none left over the most of the tread of this tire. The tire is flat, but the safety inner liner inside is still holding air, and the tire's right down to the cord. This is Wayne Torres from Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. Wayne, what happens for a tire to go like this?
Well, apparently he's run over something. As you can see here, he's cut a pretty good chunk out of the center of the tread, Mike.
But the inner liner allows the driver to get back around the pit road safely.
Right, the inner liner is still up. It's still functioning properly.
What's another one of the tremendous safety innovations to keep these guys on four wheels, and Sachs has new tires, and he's back on the racetrack.
The five-car draft up in front now has Earnhardt in the lead. Dale Earnhardt scoot by. Car number 9, Bill Elliott in second. Tim Richmond is vying for third with Cale Yarborough in the back straightaway. Here's Chris with Ernie Elliott.
Ernie, I see you're having a conversation here with your colleagues. Is Phil running a set pace, or is he running to stay in the lead, and is everything going all right?
We're just running right now. We're trying to lead as many laps as we can because of the bonus points.
I see. And I noticed you ran for a drive shaft a while ago. Is that any indication of possible trouble?
No, we just saw a lot of people on pit road having drive shaft problems. We just wanted to make sure we had a spare in case something happened.
What's Billy saying over the radio?
Nothing right now.
Okay, it's a quiet crew here, confident as their driver's right up and challenging for the lead. Back to you, Ken.
Okay, Chris. Ask a dumb question. You get a snot answer.
All right, now you see the leaders going inside and outside of lap traffic on the back straightaway, and Elliott goes back in front. Bill Elliott. Looks like it's very much his thus far in this Talladega 500 as he shoots that car back into the lead. Cale Yarborough going to second. More from Talladega in a moment. Cars fighting for position here in Talladega, Alabama, as we've completed 82 of 188 laps in the $450,000 17th run into this Talladega 500. Up in front, it's Bill Elliott.
Earnhardt slows there. Is that Earnhardt down on the inside?
I don't think so.
That's not Earnhardt
on the outside.
Just the car, I guess, that they ran up on the lap. I thought it was one of the lead cars. Sorry.
Harrington's car also getting up the laps here. Fourth place car, Richmond. Fifth, Parsons. And then on the back end of that little group for a last lap or two has been Kyle Petty's car. That's running several laps down after that altercation earlier in the race. There's the battle for the lead as Earnhardt is relentless in his effort to take this race away from Bill Elliott. Everybody came in here giving long odds that Elliott would come home easily the winner. Earnhardt been a troublemaker in that situation all day. Won it the last 2 years. Now the Fords team up on the bottom side. Let's see if Cale can go in as deep and as fast on the inside. They both have to let up a little as car number 3 and number 27. That is number 3, Earnhardt. Number 27, Richmond are right there knocking on the door. And Phil Parsons, having his very best day of the year, stays right with them.
Just right behind them is car number 7. That's Kyle Petty, but he is, of course, as we know, a number of laps down.
Live at over 200 miles an hour, back across the line they come another time. Earnhardt on the outside. outside. Look at that low line on car number 9, Ned. Elliott right there on the bottom.
And it doesn't move a bit, Ken. He's able to stay right down there where he wants it.
Now here's the other battle. This is going back to the 6th position, and Bodine has fallen back into the second group. Sachs is in there.
There we see Bodine dropping back on the outside there even more. He's dropping back to the back of that group. He must have got a problem of some sort. But he was going so strongly early on.
Ricky right back there in 10th.
It's Ron Bouchard leading that second pack, and they appear to be gaining on the front running pack.
Just a little bit, aren't they? Yeah.
That's right.
I think the front pack are doing too much side by side, and the second group are stringing it out a little bit more. Here's Parsons in second spot there.
There's Buddy Baker. He just made another pit stop, so he's gone another lap down.
Phil Parsons now in 3rd place. As Cale Yarborough leads with Earnhardt in second, here's a report from Mike Joy.
Again, we're into the pits of the defending champion of this race, Dale Earnhardt. This is car owner Richard Children talking to his driver for just a second on the radio. Earlier, Bill Elliott went by him with ease, and now he's up fighting along side by side. Might he have let Elliott go by?
Well, when we were in front, we were running about a half a second slower. Whenever Bill gets in front, he runs about a half a second faster. So we decided we'd just sit back there and let the race pace go on.
Is that characteristic of the two individual cars, or does the Ford break the wind better than the Chevrolet?
Well, I think that Ford's got a little more engine than we got, plus the body design and aerodynamic of it helps it too. So I believe that's the reason they're running about a half second faster.
Well, this, along with Bodine, one of the top GM teams here today, they're looking to repeat.
There you see the battle for the lead, and now Richmond's taking a shot at the inside. Tim Richmond taking a shot at second place as Cale leads. They've had a lot of problems trying to finish races with that car number 28 this year, but it seems though they may have that rectified today.
It seems that way, Ken. He and Waddell Wilson, the team manager and crew chief, engine builder, feels that they have been gaining on Bill Elliott every race. They have had some endurance problems with it. Here's Kyle Petty back in the pits again. But they really, you see that bursted windshield in his car, but they have been working hard and trying to get up there with him, and I think that they have gained on him.
Remember, the 28 started in second spot, the winning spot in this race. His second place 5 times. That's come home a winner. There's Cale in that lead position the present time, and there you see Kyle Petty on pit road going all the way around on rubber.
Well, that second group, as we predicted, has in fact caught up with the front group, so instead of having 2 packs of 6 and 7 cars, we've now got a 13-car lead draft.
The old familiar Talladega Express.
And in that group, of course, is Bobby Allison, who is 1 lap down now because of his infringement of the regulations. Kyle Petty coming down pit road and back onto the track, having lost still another lap.
Meanwhile, there are your leaders at turn 2. Cale first, Earnhardt second. Here's Chris Economac.
Well, one of the factors affecting the handling of a car is stagger. That's the difference in circumference of the inside and the outside wheel on either front of the back end. The consummate professionals of the Elliott team is shown by the fact that their spare wheels and tires are covered up here in the pit so the hot sun does not expand the air in those tires and change that stagger. It's the only crew up and down pit road that has its spare wheels and tires covered up against the sun. Back to you, Ken.
You can be sure they won't be the only crew for the next race, right, Ned?
Well, I tell you what, though, Bill Elliott has in fact dropped off that lead group, which is now broken to 4 and a 3 group.
And he's going in the pit. And Chris Economac should be there.
Yes, I am. He's getting his drink, and the right side tires are going on. Trophy windshield is an area, an aura of calmness that prevails here. And nobody seems to be running or rushing. Everybody's doing their job. Elliott jazzing the engine, and away he goes, and it's just another pit stop. Back to you, Ken.
A mere 16 seconds. A couple of tires and fuel.
Ken, this is a little earlier than that should not be a scheduled pit stop. It'll be interesting to see if he had a tire going down because he was dropping back a little bit. But he will stay in the lead lap, but he's going to have to get his feet up in a hurry because the leaders are bearing down on him.
Number 3, I believe, is on pit road. There's Earnhardt, and there's Phil Parsons as well.
Well, maybe they are scheduled pit stops then. That's what a long track you're running from there. Here's Mike Joy.
Well,
David Smith has the car in the air. Kirk Shelmerdine changes the right front tire. Cecil Gordon, a former driver like car owner Richard Childress, had the pit board out for Earnhardt to stop. And Ned, these are scheduled pit stops. They had planned to bring Earnhardt in at this time, and he's away quickly, and he almost takes the crew chief with him.
15.1 seconds for that pit stop, very quickly on Dale Earnhardt's car. He rushes down pit lane.
4 laps away from halfway in the race. 90 laps now complete, 239 miles into a pit stop situation. You're seeing Cale Yarborough coming on pit road. We'll be back with more of the Talladega 500 shortly. Today has just been brought out as for the second time directly below us here at the start-finish line, there's been an incident, this involving number 66, Phil Parsons. You'll recall a couple of years back, he had a horrendous wreck down here in turn number 1, flipping side over side and end over end a dozen times. Today, he smacked the wall, he's out, and he's okay. He'd been running up with the leaders over the past several laps, but Phil Parsons' day has come to an end, creating the 6th caution of the day, and for some of them, it's extremely lucky, extremely fortuitous, because they haven't made their pit stop and give them a chance to come in under caution. Here's the tail end of that incident. He banged the wall just here by the starter stand, and he ends up down in turn number 1.
I don't know what happened to start it off. I noticed in the middle of the track, right in the middle of the tri-oval, a whole bunch of bits of tire. I wonder if he in fact had a tire failure. Unlikely.
They're replacing Dale Earnhardt's windshield on the car number 3.
And it may have been a tire problem on car number 66, Phil Parsons.
He has just made a pit stop.
Left rear. Let's go to Mike.
Ken, a piece of debris hit the upper part of the windshield up at the roof. You see where they're working with pliers to straighten it so they can fit a new windshield. The glass shattered and pieces of it came in on Dale Earnhardt. He's bleeding from the nose and from the right cheek, but they put a piece of the all-purpose duct tape on it that seals up just about everything in NASCAR racing, and it seems to be superficial. Earnhardt is sitting wiping his hands off. They're getting a new piece of glass in the car. It won't seal too well. They'll have to hold it in there with tape. But Earnhardt's nickname is One Tough Customer, and he lives up to it. He's the defending champion of this race. He won it also the year before. The dashboard is smashed in as well as the top of the windshield. He took a heavy piece of debris, and if there's any way, he will try to be the first and only man to win this race 3 times in a row. They're talking with him on the radio, handing him a cool drink through the windshield. He's trying not to lose a lap. Childress that he's okay, and they may go a lap down to the safety car here. I don't see how they can refit this windshield without losing a lap. Earnhardt wiping some debris off his face, but it looks like he's going to be okay and able to continue. Richard Childress, how's your driver?
He's cut his face some, but I believe he said he'll be all right. He's got glass in his face, so I believe he'll be all right.
Well, he'll hang in there if there's any way possible. Chris?
Greg Sachs, number 77, getting his front spoiler fixed as his car gets worked on. The left front corner is being used. The Mexican speed wrench, that's a sledgehammer, being used to straighten the alignment of that car. Sachs is the new driver for the Zygarde team. The team former champion Bobby Allison vacated, as pit road is one busy place as Bill Elliott comes in now for his 2nd installment of this pit stop. Now this tells us something is wrong here. Notice that on the right rear for the left rear fender, that part of the bodywork is damaged. Apparently some debris hit that car. And they're working underneath inside there. We don't know quite what's wrong, but we can see a scar on the bodywork of the car. So Bill Elliott apparently got some of that shrapnel that was flying when Phil Parsons crashed. It looks like they're working on the left rear suspension. 2 men down there, Ernie Elliott, one of the other helpers, and they're unscrewing something from the part is broken. We don't quite know. What seems to be wrong there?
Taking the fuel counter off. We've got lost fuel pressure, and we think it's the fuel counter.
Okay, it's not in the chassis, but it's in the fuel. The fuel counter, the fuel pressure was dropped down on car number 9, and they're taking one of the items in the fuel system out here. This is a break for them because as long as they get this car back on the track before the field comes around, they will not lose a lap. There goes the wheel back on, and it looks like they're going to be setting him out in a matter of moments. Oh, there he goes. Back to you, Ken.
A quarter of a lap away from going a lap down as they get him back out. Here's Phil Parsons completing that long walk back from turn number 1 and his wrecked car number 66 after his valiant effort here today in the Talladega 500. It's over for Phil Parsons. This time he walks back, which is a whole lot better than a couple of years ago after that terrible crash, one of the worst ones they've ever had on this racetrack. And he was ready to play golf a couple of days after that, Ned.
Yes, he was.
77 sacks having a problem here.
Yes, he is. They're pushing the car down pit road. We saw them working on the left front of that, as Christy Conemaker pointed out there a moment ago. But you're talking about the Phil Parsons thing, I'll tell you. He is in very good physical condition. He works hard at staying in good physical condition, and I think that's one thing that helped to save him a few years ago in that crash that he had. They continue to push the Greg Sachs car down pit road. I guess the thing just wouldn't crank, and he's trying to get it to fire now. Or maybe they're heading towards the garage area. Oh, he's not turning in.
We've gone 96 laps, which means that we have come to the halfway point with Cale Yarborough now leading, Neil Bonnet in second, Davey Allison is in third, Tim Richmond fourth, A.J. Foyt is in fifth. Back with more in a moment.
Okay, I'm here in Bill Elliott's pit, and this is the part they took out of his car. It's a fuel line, but the electronic sensor for the fuel flow meter is here. And that was apparently the thing that was giving trouble. So they've replaced this with a straight piece of hose, which means that Bill Elliott now does not know how much fuel he's used or how much fuel he has. So he, in a sense, is at a disadvantage, along with the other fellows that are coming. Now, here's Bill Elliott coming in. They're still not through solving this problem. This is inside the left rear corner. Well, now this is just tires. They spent so much time working on the fuel line problem that they neglected to change the right side tires. This is the third stop for Elliott under this yellow flag. And he stalled the engine. And he caught it up again. Okay, down to Mike Joy.
Dale Earnhardt has come back on pit road. You can see the upper part of the roof is pushed in so badly by that piece of debris that the windshield will not seal. They're going to try to fit a spare sheet of sheet metal on there so the windshield will have something to seal to. Earnhardt is still wiping his face off. He's having a word here with the NASCAR official and watching the work that's ongoing on the upper part of that roof. Dale, do you know what hit you? What came in on the car?
No, I don't. They said it's a piece of dry shape off another car. Damn near hit me. I just cut my damn head off it when it hit me.
Are you pretty much okay?
Yeah, just fragments got on me and cut me a little bit, but it bit the hell out of the road bar.
Dad, it certainly did, and the NASCAR officials are going to make sure that that car is safe before they let Earnhardt back out on the racetrack. Ken?
Ken, I've never seen that happen. I've seen the tops of race cars, the roofs bent before, but it was after they'd been upside down. But to have it to happen, now that is a freak, unique type of a situation.
Well, you know, on the old fairgrounds tracks, as you remember, those big nets in front, every so often you take a rock right through the windshield and come back, and a lot of guys have those big scars down the side of their cheek from that kind of thing, but here it is happening on a super speedway. Very, very lucky guy.
Sure is. He
Certainly
said he could get his head off.
Hit that lucky that it hit that roof pillar, not his head.
That's the truth. I remember I got 5 stitches one time on one of those little half-a-mile dirt tracks that you're talking about. A rock came right through the open windshield, and 5 stitches it took to sew it up.
And a real stroke of bad luck, of course, for Dale Earnhardt. But what a stroke of good luck that the caution flag came out for Bill Elliott and allowed him to make those changes and do the tires all under this caution. Hasn't lost a lap.
Phil Parsons' car is being brought in, the car number 66 that was torn up a few moments ago. We'll try to get a word from him. 98 laps, I believe, are complete at this point. 98. 260 miles have been completed. There are 90 to go in the 17th annual Talladega 500. More shortly. Earlier this week said, I don't think he'll, meaning Bill Elliott, lap the field on Sunday. Right now, Neil Bonnet is number 1, trying to win this Talladega 500 for the second time in his career in the red and white car, number 12 Chevrolet. Tim Richmond's in second, A.J. Foyt's in third, Rusty Wallace is in fourth, Ron Bouchard is in fifth. Cale Yarborough is on the tail end of the lead lap as we get set to proceed under green another time after 6 cautions thus far today. There you see the standings as we get set to go another time here at Talladega, Alabama. The Greater Hartford Open continues. We'll be seeing it later this afternoon here on CBS. Bill Blackmore is there with Cole, followed by Hinkle, Floyd, and Grady. That's coming up this afternoon here on CBS. The Hartford Open, final round.
They got quite a race going there.
Let's go to Chris Economaki on pit road.
I'm in Bill Elliott's pit. Bill Elliott made 4 stops under this yellow, and it was all that fuel line problem. He's on the track. They think everything is okay. He's in the lead lap, but there's 26 cars between him and the car that's up front. They've got their fingers crossed down here in number 9 pit. Back to you, Ken.
Chris, when they restart, he should pull up a few more cars. He's running 9th overall in the latest statistic we have. We're waiting for further word on that. And on the end of that lap is number 28, Cale Yarborough. He'll be right up on the point, but he's running just about a lap minus a car length down.
And Ken, the way that happened is that Cale had just made a green flag pit stop before the caution came out, and it was a little longer than the pit stops that we saw some of the others make, and then he came back in immediately after the caution came out, so that did put him one lap down.
Let's go back to Chris.
Well, the problem here, the question in the crew's mind is that the fuel pressure diminution that created the change in the line, they've not had a chance to check it at racing speed because everything's been under the yellow, and they don't know now whether the fuel pressure is up to what that engine's going to need at full speed. So they really are a little bit eggy down here.
So there is some real concern, huh, Chris? They really are nervous now that this may not work out for them.
Well, that's the concern. They'll know as soon as he gets up to speed if they have the problem solved.
Let's review again then where we are in the standings as we get this report of a serious problem developing on car number 9. Bonnet first, Richmond second, Foyt finds himself back in third, Wallace into fourth, Bouchard fifth, Ricky Rudd sixth, Gant seventh, Lake Speed eighth, Richard Petty ninth, Rick Wilson 10th. And I guess the question is the Allison car. What about the Allison car? It's not showing here again.
Well, he should be a lap down because he was penalized.
I was thinking of his son, who we had up here in this lead lap. He is now, Davey Allison, being shown one lap down in 11th spot.
Ricky Rudd surely can't be 6th. They've just changed that drive shaft.
No, he's not.
He lost
no, he's not. And the 12th position then, somehow holding up in 12th has been number 3, but that's changing.
We don't see Bouchard. We don't see Jeff Bodine on there either. Where's Jeff Bodine?
Bodine has fallen back to 14th. He is running 2 laps down from the leaders now. Bodine back in 14th, and in the 13th position overall is Tommy Ellis, car number 18. As we continue, and they've just given us an overall rundown, that 15th position is the car number 95, which is Sterling Marlin. The 16th position is Waltrip. And 17th is Allison. And the 18th position overall is now reported as Sachs.
Well, we're about to go back to green flag racing.
Coming down with 101 laps complete, this time by 87 to go.
Cale Yarborough trying to stay out in front of Neil Bonnet to keep himself in the lead lap. He might have the strength to do it. Darrell Walton had tried it earlier, but he didn't have the strength. Cale might have. We'll see.
There's the story. Cale trying to stay in the lead lap, hope for caution, be able to circulate around this thing and get back up. When Elliott won here in May, he made it up under green. Here's Elliott whistling through, going by Sterling Marlin. There's Jeff Bodine up on the outside with him, yeah. Elliott closing up. There's Lake Speed directly in front of him, and Waltrip in number 11 a lap down as he hustles through traffic. The fuel problem seems to be resolved in a most positive way for Bill Elliott. Out back, running 9th overall, goes under Gant.
Trying, he's still struggling a bit, but on the other hand, he's not using anybody's draft. He's doing it the hard way, but it seems to be working.
Pulls up on Baker in the 88.
Seems to be getting plenty of fuel for that carburetor right now.
Yeah, there he is in front of Gant, pulling up on Baker. On the inside is Elliott, outside is Baker.
Not really bothering, not making any attempt to use anybody's draft either, is he?
Now he comes for
stays low.
Hey, that takes strength.
Yeah.
Horsepower.
Under Richard Petty.
Rusty Wallace is about to pass again. He has done a magnificent job of getting back up to 4th place after being involved in the very first caution that we have.
Elliott down underneath Wallace into turn number 1. Closes up on Bouchard, number 47. Remember, Bouchard is in 5th place.
Getting a bit of a draft there up on Bouchard, which gives him quite a bit of a leg up as he comes up turn 2 and streaks onto that back straight. Pulled right out, slipped right by Ron Bouchard into turn 3.
There's A.J. Foyt.
Using Foyt's draft. That's the only time he's used the draft in 3 laps.
That was a pass for 4th. Wallace had fallen back.
Bouchard giving a bit of a helping push now.
Here he comes for 3rd spot. Down on the inside, the battle is for 3rd. Battling for 3rd and going up through comes
covering this sport, I've heard a lot of reasons for bringing out the caution flag, but never this one. Bill Parsons, what happened?
Well, Mike, believe it or not, as I was coming through the trial, I saw something come out of the grandstands, and it's hard to imagine seeing it at 200 miles an hour, but it was like slow motion. As soon as it hit the racetrack, I blew the left rear tire and got in the wall. But not only did I see it, but all my crew, which is fitted right in front of where the tire blew, saw it. Everybody saw it. But it's really a shame that you have to have one bad apple out of 100,000 race fans, wonderful race fans, that have to spoil something like that for me. We had a car capable of winning the race.
Any flash through your mind of what happened here a couple of years ago down in the first turn when your car cartwheeled at 200 miles an hour and ended up in the museum?
Not really, Mike. I didn't have time. I was just trying to steer the thing, keep it out of the fence. Unfortunately, it did hit the wall, but it looks like it's not too awful bad. We can probably fix the car. But the thing that really bothers me is we had a car capable of winning the race, and here we are on the sidelines. It's really unfortunate.
Bill Parsons. Ken?
Here is Elliott down on the inside making another move. That's just so unacceptable. That kind of behavior.
That's for the lead. He's right back in front again. Now, Cale Yarborough is still running right in front of him. He's still in the lead lap, but by just that much. Now, can Elliott pass him and put Cale a lap down?
He made them all up. I just find it so difficult to think that anyone would do anything that dumb as to throw a can out of the grandstand. And these guys are performing at 200 miles an hour. They're right on the edge all the time. It's just so unacceptable.
It really is. Took Bill Parsons out, and of course it took Dale Earnhardt, who was running so strongly all day, and nearly killed him as well.
Well, here is Elliott, number 9, back up there at 106 laps complete, 107 this time by. They make their own luck on this number 9 team. They just keep on working. There he goes. Say goodbye. Wave of the hand.
David, did you ever have a car that superior?
Yes, he did.
If I had, I wouldn't be, if I had, I wouldn't be standing here.
Bill Elliott is now in front. Neil Bonnet is in second. Tim Richmond is in third. We bring you more live coverage of the Talladega 500. Ford and Bill Elliott is back in front another time here in our live flag-to-flag coverage of the Talladega 500. Dale Earnhardt said earlier, I don't think Ford has been the key to Elliott's success. I think that Bill and Ernie Elliott have been the key to Ford's success. Here he is out in front of everyone, not by as much of a margin as you might have expected. That's the way the race began.
Not really, Ken. Of course, we've had a number of caution flags, but there's been a lot of cars that have been running awfully well here this afternoon, and I'll tell you, they came in here very determined to try to hold that number 9 down as much as they possibly could, but he's going to be tough to hold down.
Three of the cars that really had a crack at him were Jeff Bodine, who had a problem down 2 laps down, Bill Parsons, who had that very unpleasant incident here in front of the tri-oval, and of course Dale Earnhardt, who got wrapped up in that incident with Bill Parsons. So there are 3 real strong challenges that are now at the wayside that could have given Bill Elliott a run for his money today, and now they can't.
I think certainly one car that could do it is Cale Yarborough. If he could get that lap back.
He's got to get the lap back, yeah.
There's a very unfriendly draft. Elliott realizes that if Yarborough gets by, there's the guy that can do some hard challenging. And so he's trying to hold him. So the two of them are pulling away from the rest of the field. Yarborough would certainly like to move around and get on his own out there.
Well, he might be sitting right where he wants to be now. And then if a caution should come out, he could draft right past,
take the slingshot.
Yeah.
That's the best place for him to be till the caution comes out. If they can get away from that other group, they'd be in Fat City. The rest of the group is in fact now being led by Jeff Bodine, who's down a couple of laps.
There's A.J. Foyt down underneath Neil Bonnet. Jeff Bodine right in there as well. Remember, Bodine has fallen off the pace considerably here. Bonnet's making a great run. The 1980 winner of the event.
Tim Richmond's making a good run, too.
Richmond having a good day after having some adverse luck the last 2 or 3 races in Pocono. Down they go into the first turn, and Ron Bouchard very much is in it today. He's had nothing but misfortune for a while. Currently running in 4th, that number 47, right behind the number 14, the red car of A.J. Foyt.
Smoke on a car as it goes to the tri-oval. That's car number 74 of Rick Wilson, smoking badly through the tri-oval and smoking badly through turn 1.
Rick Wilson's a great friend of A.J. Foyt. He's out of Bartow, Florida. Wants a stab at Grand National Racing. I think he would do well with it. 113 laps complete this time by. That's 300 miles down and 75 laps to go.
Ken, you mentioned Ron Bouchard, who is running right up there in the top 5. He has a little extra incentive, let's say, today. His wife, Paula, gave birth to a bouncing baby boy earlier in the week, so I'm sure he's trying to show off. Perhaps the baby's looking in today.
Chad Edward is watching. He's 7 pounds and Chad Edwards watching today.
Well, of course, the other thing about Ron Bouchard, this is the scene of his only previous Winston Cup win. So I guess if he's done it once here, he feels he can do it twice.
He likes this racetrack, and that might sound a little strange when most of his early days of racing was on the modified tracks in the northeastern part of the country. Most of them short races where the speed would be, or short track races, the speed would not be nothing compared to this, but he has adapted to the high-speed racetracks and really likes them even better than the short tracks.
There we see Rick Wilson coming into the pits, car number 74.
A.J. Foyt's car number 14, as we see smoke out of Wilson's car, maintaining third position. What a run. This has been a great run by Foyt throughout the afternoon. A.J. staying up in the hunt. Let's go to Mike Joy.
Well, Dick Hutcherson is crew chief for A.J. Foyt, and he also had a lot to do with Rick Wilson's car. This race with the heat demands a lot of stamina. And if there's anybody here that chews lug nuts and spits gasoline, it's A.J. But when was the last time he drove a full 500 miles?
I think in Indy of 1984, but this is going to be the first time in 85.
Well, when was the last time he drove 500 full miles in a stock car?
I'm not sure.
I remember 81 at Daytona, and I think he's finished a couple of races since then.
I think so, too. We're running real good today. We're running up there with the leaders. I think we're in about fourth place right now, and we're going to hope to have a good finish today.
Does he sound, talking to you, like he's in shape to go the distance and challenge?
He's feeling pretty positive about it right now. He said the car feels real good, and it's running real good.
Well, Ned and David, no matter how tired and how hot you are, you both know that when you're running up front, you feel a whole lot better.
Makes it a whole lot easier, no doubt about that.
Tends to make your troubles go away. It's a little bit confusing here because running third on the road, of course, is Jeff Badine, who's actually out of the picture. Then fourth on the road is Neil Bonnet, who is in fact second. And AJ's right behind him.
Foyt is being shown a lap down. Foyt is now being shown a lap down, then. What do you think of that one?
Well, I don't know.
We'll be back in just a moment with more of the Talladega 500. Number 9 continues to lead the Talladega 500. The second place man is Neil Bonnet. In third is Ron Bouchard, and there you see what has been the fourth place car now switching around, and that is Tim Richmond on the move. Tim Richmond climbing up to the cars and trying to take over the overall second place Kimberly. Lead car, Elliott, second man over Richmond, third will be Bonnet. And A.J. Foyt is being shown one lap down, which will put him back in the 12th position now.
And the reason, Ken, there were several cars that had made green flag pit stops before one of the cautions. Some of the drivers were able to hold off. Neil Bonnet stayed out and was able to make his pit stop under the caution. A.J. Foyt, Davey Allison, Sterling Marlick, where Sterling had lost his lap earlier when he had some smoke, and Darrell Waltrip had lost his earlier. They're all one lap down. Jeff Bodine had made a pit stop early. He dropped back in the field a little bit, had made a pit stop. He went a lap down under a green flag pit stop. So did Kenny Schrader and Cale Yarborough. So those cars are all running one lap down, and that's why.
That's what we had that last incident with car number 66. Harry Gant staying up in the 8th position. You're inside of his car now. Just in front of the Raymark car. Lake Speed. That's the battle for 7th. That's the antenna has been knocked off that car, so we have been updating you on telemetry from that vehicle. The antenna has been broken off.
Ken, we can see the right rear part of Buddy Baker's bumper. They finally pulled that off during our caution period. Of course, Buddy is a couple laps down. He made several unscheduled pit stops during the green flag run.
He's certainly trying to make it up right here.
Made a good shot there, and took the camera car with Harry Gant with him, past those two cars. Well, not quite past that car. That's the car of Greg Sachs.
Well, here's that battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th position.
That's how close they are from outside, and we saw how close they were from inside.
Tim Richmond stays there for the moment. Tim Richmond right there, followed by Neil Bonnet. Ron Bouchard. It's interesting that Dick Hutcherson was talking about that car still in 4th place. He thinks they're running up in 4th, and they're not down the line.
I'll tell you, it gets so confusing when part of the cars make a green flag pit stop and a caution comes out, and it really gets everybody confused.
Yeah.
There you see the interval between the first car, number 9 Elliott, and the 2nd place battle of Tim Richmond. Tim Richmond, Neil Bonnet, Ron Bouchard, all in there together. Cale just holding on, as Ned pointed out, looking for a spot. Should a caution come out to make that run, he'd go down low at number 3. He'd run right through the grass if he had to make that lap up. Bill Elliott stays in front. More in a moment. 23 of 188 laps complete. Richard Petty becomes a factor once again. He's running the lead lap in 5th spot. Rusty Wallace is in 6th. Blake Speed in 7th. Terry Gann is in 8th. And then 1 lap down in 9th position is Cale Yarborough. Here's A.J. Foyt trying to make some time up. Here's Chris Economaki.
Well, with 65 laps, the Bill Elliott crew seems calm and confident. When I asked them how many more fuel stops they'd have to make before this race is over, they said 1, but possibly 2, and the reason for that is the fuel meter's off the car. Bill Elliott doesn't know, but they are confident here. Now let's go down pit road to Mike Joy.
And chasing him, Jeff Bodine, Neil Bonnet, Tim Richmond, Ron Bouchard, other fellas back in the pack. Jack Beebe owns Bouchard's car, and he stood right here when Bouchard came around Terry Labonte and Darrell Waltrip to win this race in 1981. Are you guys hoping lightning strikes twice in the same place?
We sure are.
The way that car has run today, not indicative of the way your season has gone.
No, Jake's done a real good job on the engine, on the chassis, and Mike Kennedy's done a real good job on the engine. And Ronnie likes the track, and we're running real good.
Well, you had a big surprise here in 1981. Do you think he can do it?
I didn't think he could.
Do you think he can do it?
I hope so. We're going to try.
And he's got a lot of money invested to make sure that kind of thing has a chance to happen. You talked about Bouchard's infant son. Ronnie says mother and son are doing fine. In fact, the kid, even at 1 week old, can hold his head up without help. And that's with the helmet on.
Well, there you see him, Ron Bouchard, car number 47, closing in another time on Neil Bonnet in number 12. Both previous winners of this Talladega 500. Bill Elliott, seeking his 13th Grand National win, stays in front, holding the lead and also keeping Cale Yarborough a lap back. Yarborough just sitting there waiting for the opportunity to fire it up, move underneath, and make a lap up should there be a caution flag here.
Well, he's the only car right now that has shown the strength to run with Bill Elliott, excepting that car that we see, the yellow car that we see coming into the picture. Jeff Bodine is running all alone and still keeping up with Cale Yarborough and Bill Elliott. Bodine, of course, being shown a lap down at this point, but he really is running a fast race.
He's running incredibly fast. He's dropped back a little bit from this leading duo, but we don't know what went wrong with Jeff putting that lap down in the first place, because he ran strongly right at the beginning of the race.
7.5-second interval now, David, between first and second place.
Second place now being Neil Bonnet.
There's the interval. We're going to show the interval now. There's first, and you can see second probably coming down out of turn 4. There it is right there in second position. Bonnet and Ron Bouchard, followed by Tim Richmond. Because of the rain showers, which delayed the start by nearly an hour, this race is running far over the time that had been allocated for it today. So we're going to go to the Greater Hartford Open, and then we'll be returning here. I guarantee you that you will see the finish today of the Talladega 500. We're standing by up there at Hartford for the Greater Hartford Open, and this race is running considerably longer than had been anticipated because of those showers, which socked us just as we were getting set for a go. There's Buddy Arrington's car. Remember, he qualified so well today. He's still out here flogging it, fighting it home, trying to finish this 500 miles. Bill Elliott continues to be the story with nearly a 3-second advantage. And we're going to be going to golf at the Greater Hartford right now. We'll return with more live flag-to-flag coverage later today. Right now, we're going to the Greater Hartford Open after this word from your local station. Complete, 35 laps remaining. 95,000 folks here at Talladega, Alabama, watching Bill Elliott go for his 9th win of the year. Ron Bouchard is running in second. Neil Bonnet maintaining third. Tim Richmond in fourth. Richard Petty in fifth. There you see the major confrontation at this moment, and that is between Ron Bouchard, number 47, and the red and white number 12 of Neil Bonnet. We've had 9 cars running the lead lap until just a lap ago, and then the Elliott car has moved by number 7 75, Bill Elliott, number 75, Lake Speed. And moving along with him has come 28 and 5. Just barely in front, you see Cale Yarborough, and with him there is Jeff Bodine. Those two cars are a lap down, and they're the tail end of the lead lap. They are on the bottom end of the lap. If 9 goes around them, they will be 1 lap down, and here's Elliott making that move right now to put them a lap down. He's coming Bodine and going for Cale Yarborough. There's a lot more at stake here today than just this race, just the money to be paid. Even if you dislike auto racing, what happens here at Talladega today is important. The story from Chris Economac.
Today's race symbolizes the rawest form of American capitalism in action, pitting our nation's industrial giants, Ford and General Motors, in a public battle of their technological strength with no way to hide their weaknesses. John Peterson, the new chairman of the board of Ford Motor Company, saw his company withdraw from auto racing competition in the early 1970s. He personally steered Ford into the aerodynamic styling of the 1980s and back onto the NASCAR circuit.
Well, we came back because we concluded we made a mistake getting out in the first place. It's a very important part of the merchandising of our products to our public.
Ford's success on the Grand National Superspeedway has meant dramatic increases in Thunderbird sales. The old adage, win on Sunday, sell on Monday, was never truer.
After a recent race Bill Elliott won, Atlanta reported 76% increase in sales in a 10-day reporting period right after the race.
General Motors has designed and built 2 Chevrolets specifically to succeed on the racetrack. The resulting showroom success of the IROC Camaro and the Monte Carlo Supersport has left GM unable to meet demand for these cars.
But now for 86, we're geared up to make 2.5 times the amount that we originally thought we were going to sell. So we're going to be selling up in the neighborhood of 50,000 of those IROCs next year. Now, the Monte Carlo SS, it's a similar success story. The Monte Carlo SS has been very successful in NASCAR. We're probably going to be selling about 2 times what we thought we were when we first introduced the product.
The Monte Carlo SS, the Ford Thunderbird, the Pontiac Grand Prix, and Buick Regal all battle each other on the track and in the showroom. But it is the IROC Camaro that goes head-to-head with Japanese imports and is competing successfully. Detroit calls the purchase of an American car, like the IROC Camaro, as opposed to a Japanese car, like the Nissan 300ZX, a conquest sale.
I would have to say that the IROC has maybe even conquested some people that were in a Japanese car.
I understand that shifts have been added at 2 GM plants because of the success of the IROC Camaro. How many Americans are working today that might not be working otherwise were it not for this car?
In those 2 plants, we probably employ today 10,000 people, and when you think of the components that are added, you could say that's another 5,000 to 6,000 people.
The ripple effect.
The ripple effect. And if 25% of those were due to the popularity of the IROC, that's not all bad.
It's a long way from the bank turns of Talladega to the bulls and bears of Wall Street. The analysts who watch the auto stock say it doesn't matter who wins the stock car race, just don't lose too often.
If the automakers appeared less powerful in the minds of the auto buff and the sports-minded segment of the market, it would definitely be a negative factor, but it may hurt their market share.
In today's market, where the consumer is increasingly interested in performance, we will see a measurable impact on sales from a strong performance at the racetrack.
Ford says it doesn't build cars just for the racetrack. Chairman Don Peterson must have had the fuel-conscious Sunday school teacher in mind when he unveiled the aerodynamic Thunderbird.
We actually used the aerodynamic form because it truly helps the fuel efficiency. It happens also, it just so happens that it makes a very nice racing car.
And that very nice racing car is leading by some 13 seconds here in the Talladega 500, and perhaps even more at this moment over Ron Bouchard, Chevrolet in second, and Neil Bonnet Chevy maintaining third spot. And there you see the second and third place cars. Let's get a quick report from Mike Joy on pit road.
Ken, everyone will have to make one more fuel stop, and the reason is gas mileage. Not miles per gallon, but miles per tank full. Early in the race, Ron Bouchard was getting 40 laps on a tank. Now his car is only picking up enough to get him 31 laps. Same with Richard Petty, and the same with Jeff Bodine. The most they've gone on a tank full is 32 laps today. The Elliots will have to stop, and so will Neil Bonnet. But even if we go green flag all the way, one more fuel stop will be all that will be needed by the leaders.
Next time by, there will be 27 laps, 71 miles remaining in this $450,000 race as Bill Elliott of Dawsonville, Georgia, continues to command the 17th annual Talladega 500. Just barely in front of him, New England's Jeff Bodine and Cale Yarborough trying to keep themselves in that lead lap as we get into the final moments. Let's take another look at the standings now. As you see, Bill Elliott, the number 9, Ford Thunderbird, continuing out in front. There they are, Bouchard in second, Bonnet in third, Richmond in fourth, Richard Petty. We've got one car loose, tagging the wall. It's Bodine. Jeff Bodine has slammed into the wall in turn 4. He's going to be bringing out a caution. Jeff Bodine has slapped the wall in turn number 4. The car spinning several times and coming to a halt just at the entrance of pit road.
Well, of course, that's played right in the hands of Cale Yarborough, who will remain a lap, will get that lap back and will be able to challenge Bill Elliott.
Let's see, they're going to race all the way back around this 2.6-mile track. I don't believe Yellow would come out.
I think they got the caution when they came by that time.
And if indeed they did, then it will give Yarborough an opportunity to circulate around this track and to become a challenger at the very close of this race on Bill Elliott to win it all this afternoon.
Ken, it's very ironic that at the top of the show, Mike Joy did an interview with Jeff Bodine, and he said the last few times we've been here, we've had trouble in turn 4. There he is again today, having trouble in turn 4. Apparently he blew a tire.
7th caution of the day. It appears to be the second tire that is blown on the track. Up in the wall, you see Bodine. Leaders are all coming on pit road in lap 163.
Excepting Cale Yarborough, he'll go around to make up that lap before he comes into the pits.
And Richard Petty there has another narrow brush with disaster. The second time in this day that he's been missed by less than about 3 inches.
Very fortunate.
So there you see the activity on pit road. There is the lead car going all the way around. A 4-tire change for Awesome Bill from Dawsonville, Georgia. We're going back now to the Greater Hartford Open with Pat Summerall standing by and company, and we'll be back for the final laps of the Talladega 500 later this afternoon. Now to Hartford, and here's Pat Summerall. Faded, and he is now running 4th overall on 7 cylinders. And here is the new leader. It's Cale Yarborough. His time runs out. Right on his rear bumper is Neil Bonnet, and behind him comes the man who shocked them all just a few years ago, number 47, Ron Bouchard. Cale first by 1 car length, averaging better than 200 miles per hour. The final moments of the 17th annual Talladega 500. It's been a bad year for Cale. Only 3 races as he finished, 2 of them in 3rd place. Now he's trying to rectify that situation today, doing better than those 3rd places at Talladega and Michigan. He's made up the lap. He's out in front. But the interesting circumstance is Ron Bouchard to me in that 47. He's playing this game exactly as he did when he won this race.
And what a role reversal for Cale Yarborough, too. We normally see him sitting in that 2nd spot, waiting to nail the leader on the last lap. And he's the guy that could well get nailed by those 2. It just depends how they put it up together.
Tim Richmond in for an unscheduled stop, so he is out of the picture. There is Elliott running well back. He is in 4th overall. There remain at this time 4 cars in the lead lap. There's Ernie Elliott looking stern and taciturn after having his hopes built up all afternoon. Then it goes away. Car running on 7 cylinders. Coming by this time, 184 laps will be recorded as complete of the 188 lap distance. The leader, Yarborough, still there. He's never won this race. 81 Grand National victories. Waddell Wilson looking on. One of the most creative people in NASCAR Grand National racing. Waddell Wilson looking at car number 28.
He built some of the best engines in the business, Ken. And he, for years, was known to be the man to beat when you come to the high-speed racetracks like Daytona and Talladega. But now the Elliots have taken that away in 1985. But here today, it sits at the point.
Earlier we talked to Cale Yarborough about this race and his potential for possibly turning things around. This is what he said.
You know, I've always run good here in the end of Talladega, but I sure haven't I'd like to, but I feel like this Hardy Ford is running good enough now that it's capable of winning this race, and I sure hope we can this time.
Well, he came close back in 1977. He had a second then, a second in 1980. Last year he was fifth. Will it turn around? Will Neil Bonnet, the man who won it in 1980, find his way back around in these final moments? Or the man that won it in 1981, Ron Bouchard, at number 47, who scored his single victory in Grand National Racing, riding there in third place. Take it all. Let's go to Chris Economack.
I'm down here in Cale Yarborough's pit with Waddell Wilson, who's checking the clock. He's talking with Cale Yarborough right now. He's going to get a word with him as soon as he's through with this transmission. Waddell, you got a good feeling?
Well, it's good to be here at this point of the race and have a shot at winning, but we're very concerned about the 12 and the 47.
What did Cale just have to say to you?
Well, he just told me he wasn't sure he was in the right place because he always likes to be in second at this point of the race.
Rather be in second. Okay, that's it from Waddell Wilson. Let's go down pit road to Mike Joy.
When Bill Elliott had the lead, he was running about 47 seconds. Now he's running about 48:10, 48:20. Ernie, any idea what the problem is?
No, not really. You know, it either foul plug or a coil's going bad, one or the other. You know, we just don't know which.
It's electrical trouble, one of the little gremlins that's kept them now toward the back of the pack. Ken?
And now the speculation is, as they come down, white flag is out. Yarborough trying to pull away as Bouchard races on and across the line. Has Elliott gambled, or rather has Yarborough gambled correctly here?
He has. When Ron Bouchard made that move, that's the best thing that could have happened to Cale Yarborough. It's because when they were running side by side, it allowed Yarborough to pull away. That was his only hope, I think, Ken. If they had lined up right behind each other and made that pass on the last lap, they might have pulled it off.
Bouchard made a shot at turn number one. It looked like he had Bonnet turned sideways.
I think Neil Bonnet tagged him right on as they came off turn two. But
all right, racing for the finish now, coming down, and there's distance. Cale Yarborough may be out to win it for the first time. He's coming into the tri-oval. Cale Yarborough with his luck here. Here they are, charging. Should have a great race for second place as well. At the line, it is Yarborough across. Then it's car number 12, Neil Bonnet for second, and it will be Ron Bouchard. I think he did get some damage.
Ron Bouchard, the front right corner of his car was definitely deranged. He must have just tagged Neil Bonnet coming off turn two.
So Cale Yarborough finally wins the Talladega 500. Yarborough is victorious. Waddell Wilson and crew ecstatic over this outstanding victory. We'd like to thank the NASCAR officials for their cooperation. It's been a rugged afternoon with this rain delay. Particularly, we'd like to thank the Hewlett-Packard folks at Mach 1 Racing for the use of their telemetry in car number 33. Race cam assistance from the cars of Jeff Bodine, Kyle Petty, and Harry Gant today. We'd like to say a special word of condolence to Brent Musburger on the loss of his dad, Cease. On behalf of all of us, Bobby Fishman, Bob Stenner, and the entire company here. Final standings in the Talladega 500. Yarborough victorious. Neil Bonnet in second. Ron Bouchard third. Bill Elliott fourth. And A.J. Foyt comes home fifth. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports. Now to Hartford and Pat Summerall.